How's it going, everybody? Good evening. Welcome to episode number 165 of Heavy Metallurgy. It's a Friday. Happy Friday, Alan. Happy Friday. How are you?
Happy Friday, Marty. I'm pretty
Friday.
good. A little tired today, but yeah, everything's just kind of going along nice and steady. But yeah, looking forward to a cool topic tonight and a good discussion. We just have a little bit of bookkeeping to do before we get into that.
We do indeed. I'll jump right into that here. Get this pulled up. All right. We're trying to do the new releases thing. Let you guys know some stuff that came out this week. Friday is typically the release day in the music industry. So I've got a list of, myself and Alan here have a list of stuff that you might be interested in, maybe not. So starting off for the 28th of June, we've got 200 Stab Wounds with Manual Manic Procedures came out on Metal Blade. That band kind of rose to prominence pretty quick.
Yes, they did.
Yeah, Anvil, One and Only on AFM. They're still soldiering on. The Canadian institution. Crystal Viper, The Silver Key on Listenable.
Yeah, it's good to see they're still around. I wasn't sure what they were up to these days.
The Eternal, Skinwalker. The Eternal is the band. Skinwalker is the album name. That came out on Reigning Phoenix. Ill Disposed, In Chambers of Sonic Disgust came out on Massacre. Kaipa, I should have maybe not have included this one. Samargiriningsluis. Nailed it.
I think you mispronounced the last word. Try
I
that
think
again.
so. Yeah. That's on Inside Out. So whatever that means, it means Prague probably. Limbonic Art, Opus Demonical on Kirk, which I'm hoping to have a review up on Monday for. Fingers crossed. Busy weekend. Cool. We'll see. My Epic, Loriella on Tooth and Nail. Nair, All Is Dust on Metal Blade. That is spelled Naera. Nera, sorry. Sunbomb, Light Up the Sky, Frontiers is on the album, on the label Frontiers. White Stones, Memoria Viva on Reigning Phoenix. And lastly, on this list that I have here, Wraith, Fueled by Fear on Prosthetic.
Yep, a lot of people have been looking forward to that one this year for sure.
Did I miss anything, Alan?
Let's see, just one extra one I wanted to shout out. The new Altar of Oblivion album is out. It's called In the Cesspit of Divine Decay, and it's on From the Vaults label. Good kind of traditional metal band, leans a little bit doomy, kind of like Argus, for example. But yeah, their stuff's usually worth checking out for sure. But that's the only other one I had on my list that you didn't already call out.
All right, our watches are synchronized once again. That's great. But we have a guest, and he's a favorite of ours, and a great dude. One of our favorite Canadians. I would say our favorite Canadian, one of our favorite Canadians.
Careful, we know a lot of Canadians.
We do. We know a lot. I was thinking that. I thought maybe he was the only one, but it came right. Darcy, 6 strings, 9 lives. What's going on, my friend? How you doing?
Thanks, guys. Favorite Canadian. I don't know. I don't want to see your list, man. Yeah, good to be back, you guys. I always look forward to spending time with you guys. It's just it's so cool to just jump on here like we've known each other forever, and it's like we're sitting beside each other having a beer. That's kind of the atmosphere that you guys always. Even watching your other guests, they all fit like they're right at home. So thanks for having me again, guys.
Anytime, always a blast.
You're always welcome. And yeah, tonight's topic is one that obviously we have saved for you until the time was right, and I think it is that time.
Yeah, definitely.
Hey, Sue. All right.
Yes, Sue, an original member of the Wrecking Crew. Good to. Glad you're there. Hope you and John are doing well, Sue.
Yes, for sure. And before we get into it, I figured I'd read a little bit about them to anybody that might not be aware who Overkill is. Overkill, this is via Wikipedia, so my words are not original at all. Overkill is an American thrash metal band formed in 1980 in New Jersey. They have gone through many lineup changes, leaving bassist DD Verni and lead vocalist Bobby Blitz Ellsworth as the only constant members. The band is one of the most successful East Coast thrash metal bands, and they are often called the Motorhead of thrash metal, based on their unique playing style, which was influenced by punk rock and the new wave of British heavy metal. The band has a notable mascot named Charlie, Chaly. A skeletal bat with skull-like face, horns, bony wings, and green eyes, who's appeared on many of their album covers. Overkill has released 20 studio albums, an album of cover songs, 2 EPs, 1 demo tape, and 3 live albums. They were one of the first thrash bands to sign to a major label, having signed to Atlantic Records in 1986, and rose to popularity as part of the genre's movement of the mid to late 80s, along with the Big Four, which is Metallica, Megadeth, Slayer, and Anthrax, as well as Exodus and Testament. Then we're going to go on to we're going to address the albums as we go. So I just wanted to get that little bit of tidbit out there. And now that Slayer is dead and gone, sort of, mostly, are they still considered part of the Big Four? Or you think they would have to step down and someone else should fill in for that?
I have a feeling it doesn't work that way.
No, they're definitely still part of the Big Four, but I think we all kind of got our own fill-ins, like whether you're going to throw Exodus in there. I got my probably got my big 8 for sure, or my big 10 even, of American thrash for sure. But there's always room for Overkill as far as this guy's concerned. But
yeah,
I don't know. Before we get rolling too, I just wanted anybody that watches my channel and watches you guys, coming up on 6 years on YouTube, and I've had an absolute blast. I still enjoy it. I'm not going anywhere. I kind of go at my own, 1 video a week pace is all I can handle with my life. But thanks a million, you guys. I absolutely still love doing what I'm doing, and I will continue to hang out with you guys as long as you'll have me and as long as you're still doing this. So
absolutely.
Sounds good.
We love having you on, and it's always a pleasure. Always a lot of fun. Always a good topic. Always a good conversation. So absolutely.
Yep. Yeah. One neat little trivia thing Marty and I realized a few weeks ago when we were getting, this show kind of set up and all. As you'll find out over the next few hours, we've got 20 studio albums to go through with Overkill. And it occurred to Marty and I that only a handful of heavy metal bands have ever gotten that many studio albums put out. And as far as we've been able to figure out, we've come up with about 6 bands, I think, maybe a 7, that have released 20 albums. But I'm pretty sure Overkill is the only American band on our list, that we haven't come up with any other heavy metal band from the States that's gotten this many albums out. We've, there's a bunch that, are in that 14, 15, 16, 17 kind of range. Manila Road was very close. But,
wasn't Rush? Didn't we think about Rush too? But Rush didn't quite make it.
Yeah, Rush is not a heavy metal band.
Well, I know, but still, they're
Rush
adjacent.
Rush is Canadian.
Yeah.
Well,
North America.
They're not American. They're not metal. They're not good.
Ooh.
Okay. See you later. Have a good night. Yeah.
That's right. That's right. They're a Canadian treasure. I've now incurred the wrath of Canada.
Anvil's Canadian, but they just reached 20 albums. I know other ones that come to my mind: Motorhead, 22 studio albums. Loudness, 56. I don't know what.
Rage has got 26 or 7 records.
Yeah. But
Rage was one of the highest counts we came up with. So
I don't know. Yeah. I don't think
Saxon's way up there.
Saxon made it. I think we figured out Dark Throne made it. There were a couple of British bands, Norwegian, 1 or 2. Germany's Sinner is just over the 20 mark. So there's just a handful, and there's a couple that you don't necessarily jump to mind, like Rage and Sinner, but bottom line, for any band to get to 20 studio albums is pretty impressive. It basically means on average you've got to release 1 album every 2 years for 40 years. You've got to be very consistent over a long period of time, over multiple decades, for that to happen. You can't take 3, 4, 5 year breaks and reach 20 albums. It just won't occur. Even if you release a bunch of albums close together early in your career, or maybe you had an album in 85 and 86 and 87, most bands gradually slow down and start putting out an album every few years, and that's going to put a cap on your tally. Somehow Overkill has kept cranking them out. There's very few breaks that are more than 2 or 3 years.
Yep.
And so kudos to them for basically
Yeah.
cranking out more heavy metal albums than any other band from the USA that we've been able to come up with. But yeah, if anybody in the chat thinks of others that have hit that 20 mark, double check yourself over on Metal Archives before you throw them out there, because some bands you think that have gotten to 20 albums actually didn't quite get there. But yeah, there might be some others that we just have not thought of.
What about Blue Oyster Cult? Did we consider them? Not that they're a straight up metal band, but
They have a few.
They might have, but I wouldn't consider them a metal band. So
But
I'm disqualifying them. They're in the Rush box. They are disqualified from the get go.
But Alan, you hit the nail on the head, though. The common denominator is that pace of releasing. The one thing is, you take a band like, there's big gaps in the other thrash bands. Okay, Death Angel went away for 14 years. Exodus went away for 12 years. Testament went away for 9 years.
Yep.
Overkill never went away, period. And that's really, that makes up the balance of these albums.
And even those bands you mentioned, even though they're back, they're not that prolific. Exodus isn't putting out stuff quickly.
Testament's on a 4-year rotation.
Yeah, Testament's on a 4 or 5 year. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. Who else? Even Death Angel, they haven't had one since 2019.
Yeah.
So
a lot of the big German thrash bands that never really technically went away. In the 90s, they didn't put out a ton of stuff necessarily. Their output really slowed down there for most of that decade. And so again, that means that a lot of those bands are more like in that 17 or 18 kind of range right now, which is still a fantastic career. Don't get me wrong. There's nothing magical about the number 20. It was just kind of, it struck us as odd when we realized it's just like, wow, this is a lot of albums. And we started thinking about it, and only came up with a handful of other bands that have made it that far.
Sue's got a good point too. Overkill always kept playing live too. Never stopped playing in the Northeast and Europe. It's true.
Yeah.
Yep. And I never got to see them. They always played tons around the Midwest.
I've only seen them once, and they were amazing. They were great. Absolutely great.
They would always hit like Toledo or Ann Arbor or those places like about 2 weeks after the semester would end when I wasn't in town. So I never did get to catch them back then. Yep. And here in the Southeast, they're not going to play the Southeast, nor should they. It would not be a good venture for them whatsoever. So not likely to catch them locally anytime soon.
Yeah.
But anyway, any other thoughts we want on Overkill before we get started on this list? Because we got a big one to go through.
We got a big one.
I got to say, this band, when I was in high school and graduated high school, this was like one of my top 2 favorite bands. I had an Overkill shirt for every day of the week. I love this band. And their early catalog is very easy to love because it's really, really good. And obviously my tastes changed a little bit as things got harder, but it's still no disrespect to this band. It's just amazing, their longevity and their work ethic. It's just, they keep on turning it out, which is great. Absolutely great.
Yeah, they've been my favorite thrash band since 87, which was the year that I graduated or got asked to leave high school, whatever way you want to look at it. But and I've stuck. That's just one of the bands that I've stuck with, literally had every release. So I'm glad you picked me for this one because I am ready.
Ed, is this your first time in the chat? It's good to see another Michigan person in here. Cheers.
Yeah.
Good to see you.
Ed's a good dude. I do talk to him quite regularly.
All right, before we dive into this, should we talk about this real quick? Since you guys divulged some information at the beginning that I was unaware of. So,
yes. Darcy, will you explain this to our viewers? Because please.
So when Overkill's adding up their discography, you're going to get to some albums that are numbered, like Killbox 13, which will actually be only their 12th studio album as far as, Discogs and things like that, or Wikipedia keeps track, because they count that EP that Marty just held up as their first release. I know it's an EP, but you'll get to albums like Killbox 13 or Relics 14.
Yeah, Immortalis has like 15 at the end.
Or you will get to Immortalis, which is kind of a play on words. It just means immortal 15. So that IS at the end is meant to be 1-5. And after that, they kind of get their ass back on track and drop those numbers. So if you're wondering if we're holding up an album and it's not adding up to the number on the album, that's why. So if that makes any sense to you, it won't change our ranking. Don't worry, but
Right on.
Yeah. Yeah, but yeah, it is just kind of weird that we'll be talking about, the 12th album has 13 in the name of the album, but they count them differently in New Jersey, I guess.
And I might have to offer Marty $75 and 24 White Claws for that EP, maybe, and shipping. No,
that one stays.
Okay,
That's a keeper.
Okay.
Well, we might as well get started, and Darcy will start with you, but we're going to start off with this album, Feel the Fire, and I'm going to try this here. We're going to give little notes leading up to this. This album was originally titled First Blood. Recording information recorded at Pyramid Studios, Ithaca, New York. Mastered at Sterling Sound, New York. So yeah, there's that little tidbit of info. But Darcy, Feel the Fire.
Okay, and those of you that maybe not new to the channel, but how we do these is we're going to hold up every album in chronological order, and then we'll each give our thoughts and a ranking of that album. A couple other notable names on here would be Carl Canetti, if you know him from the Rods. He was this album was produced by Carl Canetti, and executive producer John Zazula, who sadly passed away, I think 2 years ago, something like that. But
maybe a little longer than that. I can't remember.
Maybe 3 years ago, but big name with the Megaforce. But all right, so here is 1985's Feel the Fire with the original lineup with Rat Skates. And I don't know if a lot of people have, what's that basement one? What was that called? That DVD with Rat on it. And Out of the Basement. Oh, what was it called? Oh man, if you
Born in a Basement.
Yeah,
right?
Because this is pretty much was Rat's baby. Like, this was his band for the first two albums, and okay, there you go, Johnny Z. Thank you for that. But anyways, Feel the Fire, 1985, and I'll give my ranking of this one right off the bat. This is my number 4 favorite Overkill album. Absolutely love this album. Now, only got into Overkill one album later, so I backtracked to this one, but still blown away. And there's probably 3 to 4 tracks that they still play live to this day. Of course, you got Rotten to the Core, but there's so many. There's just not a weak track on here. The title track, which I pulled this out too. If anybody's never heard the live in Oberhausen, it's great. What they did there at this time, I think that would be a 30-year anniversary of Feel the Fire. They played that in the entirety. And then a 25th anniversary of Horrorscope. They played that album in its entirety on 2 different nights. This is one of the best live albums you're going to hear. This is
the video for it. The Blu-rays are great.
If you want to just check out one track quick, Feel the Fire, the title track on this live album, it is actually just gives me chills listening to it. I just want to go nuts listening to it. But there's my number 4. Where you guys rate this one?
We shall see. Oops, sorry, Alan.
Oh, it's all good.
All right, Alan.
Yeah, so Feel the Fire, classic album. It's one of the first ones I heard by the band. I don't know for sure which I heard first, second, third. This may have been like number 2 as I worked through their discography. I got a used cassette copy of it in a record store in Atlanta while my dad and I went to Atlanta when I was in high school. It was summer. We were watching a couple of Braves games. This was back in like around 1990, before the Braves were actually any good. So they still pretty much sucked, but we'd still go watch them sometimes. And yeah, it was in like a cramped little used record store. They had a bunch of cassettes, and the used cassettes were like in a glass display case. So you had to like wait and get somebody's attention, like I want that and that. So it was kind of a weird layout for used tapes. But anyway, got it. Was playing it on the Walkman on the drive back from Atlanta, and yeah, loved it instantly. Loved Blitz's voice. He sounded just genuinely like scary, pissed off, creepy, angry. Not like evil necessarily, but just like he really wanted to hurt you for some reason. Yeah, great songs, crazy catchy melodies and stuff throughout it. Yeah, I didn't really register at the time since I was a teenager and hadn't heard tons of different music yet, but they definitely have kind of a punk vibe to them that always kind of spiced up their music a little bit, and I liked it. It has a little bit of that kind of loud, rude, and snotty attitude that you don't get with every thrash band. Some thrash bands it's just more like grr, we're angry, and others it's more like yo dude, where's the pizza? With Overkill it's more like you fuck with me and I'm going to put a switchblade in your back. It's like, yeah, okay, let's not mess with that. But so yeah, fantastic album. Not to belabor the point, lots of classics with the title track Overkill, Kill on Command, of course, Blood and Iron, Feel the Fire, pretty much the entire B side. Just absolutely cleans house. Lots of good stuff on the A side. Raise the Dead too, again, just right off the bat.
There's No Tomorrow's my jam. Oh my god, I love that.
Yep. That as well. Rotten to the Core is still good. Just the songs have just again this very creepy, eerie, angry vibe that not many other albums ever got. I think Ikas in the chat said it well a moment ago. It's one of those original albums that straddles the line between power and thrash. This is a little bit before Overkill gets fully into thrash metal mode. There's still kind of a US power metal thing going on here, similar to the first Anthrax album. So yeah, it's an absolute banger, longtime favorite. Some pressings, of course, had the bonus track of Sonic Reducer, and they absolutely kill that cover song. Do it. They do it better than the Dead Boys for my money.
Oh yeah.
And so yeah, at the end of the day, this is a solid A, maybe A plus kind of album for me, and I would rank it number 2 in their catalog. There is only one Overkill album that I will rank higher than this, which is kind of amazing. By most bands, this would easily be the best thing they ever recorded, but Overkill's got one that I like even more than this one. So number 2 for me, straight there, coming out of the gate roaring.
Definitely some East Coast attitude for sure on that, eh?
Yeah.
Oh yes, and they always kind of retain that throughout.
They have. They've never wavered on that.
Yeah. There's a great line in. It's a song much later in their career, but yeah, Blitz says something like, always had a lot of mouth for a Jersey white boy.
Yeah.
It's just like, yep, that fits. It sure does. But yeah, so Marty, on to you for where do you got this one ranked?
You know what? I've listened to we all have listened to the entire catalog this week, and today before we went live, I put this on and cranked it. And this, I cannot tell you how many times since I bought this album, I've listened to this thing, and it never gets tired. I'm never burnt out or tired of this album. There's such an urgency and a uniqueness to this thing. 100% I agree. They're a cross between U.S. power metal and thrash at this point. They hadn't really fully embraced the thrash. They kind of do that on the next record a bit, but I love the songwriting on this, and I'm a huge fan of Rat Skate's drumming. He's a skate kid. He's a skateboarder, and he just attacks the drums. There's like a rawness and an obvious unbridled passion to his playing. And the way the drums are produced on this record, it's very live. It's very in your face. He's very technical. He's hard hitting, and he really helps sell these already great songs. But there's not a song on here I dislike. And like I said, There's No Tomorrow is probably my favorite. Feel the Fire, what a great song. Blood and Iron, oh my God. I mean, I listened to it tonight, and I'll probably listen to it again tomorrow. I have a little road trip to do tomorrow. This might make it in the van, but this to me is my number 1 Overkill album. And that's not saying there's other amazing albums, but this to me, it sounds like no other Overkill record. They kind of shied away. They still always maintain the punky aesthetic. It's very minor as they go forward, especially during the late 90s and into the 2000s. But here it's a perfect mix between that punk, pissed off punk attitude. There's there's like an iron worker mentality to this music. I mean, you can see their work ethic here. They're like blue collar all the way, hard work, and there's dirt under their nails. It comes through on this record. Rat Skates, you watch that Born in the Basement documentary. Darcy mentioned, I'd highly recommend it. It's great. Rat Skates was kind of he was the PR guy. Overkill was his baby, and he went full force in promoting it. And all these little things, their stage show. The drum risers were made out of egg crates or milk crates, and just the things they would do. It's really cool to watch that and see the heart and dedication until he got burnt out and freaked out by all the travel and away from home and all that stuff. But man, this album is fantastic. 100%. This is an A+ album all day. Not even a question. There's nothing I dislike. Love the Dead Boys cover. Not on the vinyl, but it is on. Is that on your copy of the vinyl? Did they add that, or is it just?
Yeah, Sonic Reducer's on my vinyl.
Is it okay? I don't know if it was on the original pressing. It might be, but it is on the CD anyway. But God,
it was not on the original cassette, because that's what I had for the longest time.
Right on.
God, you got me wanting to stop for 35 minutes and play that. Now
Okay, we'll reconvene at 10 o'clock and let Darcy get his Feel the Fire fix.
Yeah, you can thank Rat for that cool logo too. One of the most iconic looking unchanged logos. A band that stuck with their logo pretty much the whole road. But yeah, fan. And that's your number one. Awesome.
That's my number one. And that brings us up to next 1987's Taking Over. This one was co-produced by Overkill, recorded and mixed at Pyramid Sound, Ithaca, New York. Again, mastered at Frankfurt, Wayne, New York. Taking Over.
With a big name, or a very common name back in the early 80s, Alex Perry Ellis. You know that name on many thrash albums in the 80s, but Taking Over 1987. So this is when I discovered Overkill. I have a younger brother of about 3 years younger than me that had the cassette. At one point, I borrowed it basically permanently. He's never seen it since. And that's okay with
I didn't
him,
think Canadian people could steal. Did you go sorry?
Borrowed, and I did
borrowed, and I'm sorry.
I said sorry, but yeah, at this point, guys, I honestly never missed a release, even if even through the lean times of Ian, you're awesome, man.
Thanks, Ian. You rule.
Thank you.
Yeah, you truly are an awesome guy. Yeah, even during the lean times when I was trying to buy diapers and milk, I still managed to, save enough for every Overkill release. But so, guys, you're probably expecting me to say this is my number one, but it's actually my number two. And I'd say, Marty, you were leaning a little bit where you were talking about the power metal, the U.S. power metal. I think this is about as power metal-y as they ever kind of got, especially with Blitz's vocals on this one.
It ranks in there with Metal Church for sure.
Yeah, then they definitely hit the thrash button after that, and we'll get to all that. But I absolutely love this album. This is obviously right up there with Feel the Fire. Didn't mention that on the first album there is a song called Overkill, and on this one there is a song called Overkill 2, which is called The Nightmare Continues, and that goes up all the way to 5. They've hit 5, and I'll try to mention those as we go of that continuous Overkill 5, whatever you call that. Not a trilogy, but anyways, top to bottom, and they still play songs off this album like Wrecking Crew, one of my favorites, Overkill songs, Fatal If Swallowed, Power Surge. I think In Union We Stand might have been one of the first videos I ever saw in Canada's Much Music. And yeah, great tracks like Electro Violence.
Great song.
Sadly, the last album to feature Rat Skates and kind of that classic 2-album lineup, but this is my number 2.
Right on. All right, Alan, Taking Over.
All right. So yeah, Taking Over, you see the band is, moving more in a thrash direction on this one. They may not be fully there yet, but they're heading that way. Yeah, another kind of classic album for me. It's a step down from the debut, not a huge step down. Still a very good album. Starts off great. Deny the Cross it is again just another one of those like, okay, they're back and they're still very, very scary sounding type songs. Wrecking Crew, of course, is great. Fear His Name. Now the album does lose a point for what happens next, and I've pointed this out about Taking Over before. You've got back-to-back songs at the end of side A that both kind of, devolve into, the very cheap sexual innuendo with
groupie culture
and Fatal If Swallowed. Yeah, the groupie songs. All right, look, groupie songs are like ballads. You get one per album, and I won't complain. But when you get two on an album, I got to throw a flag on that.
Back to back.
Instrumentals. You can have one instrumental, and it's like, sure, whatever. But you put two instrumentals on them, and it's like, now, come on, try harder. So having two groupie songs and having them back to back, just kind of, they wallow in it a little bit too long. So it's not that they're terrible songs, but it's just like, didn't you guys just did this song? Why are you doing the same thing in the next song? So yeah, you're a little going to call a foul on that. Side B also has good tracks: Power Surge, Electroviolence. This chapter, Overkill 2, is not as good as Chapter 1, in my opinion. Chapter 1 is a freaking classic. Anything would have a hard time living up to that. Chapter 2 is okay, but not quite as good. So where does this one stand for me? Still very, very good album, like B+ album. B+ is like, okay, it's maybe not quite there on that top tier, but I still want it on the shelf kind of albums. And I have it ranked as number 4 in their catalog. It's still a top 4 album. Again, I've already used number 2, so there's just a couple more albums that are up here a little higher than it. But still an excellent album. And I'm very, very pointedly not bringing out my sad, sad little bootleg CD copy to show off, because that just feels terrible. We've been there. We all know what it looks like. We all know my shame.
It's the same with my Ulysses Siren bullshit CD. Remember that thing?
You fixed that though.
I fixed it. I got the real deal. Yes. That couldn't stand. I think I sent the other to Ben. I don't know. Yeah,
I will fix the Taking Over situations given a chance. But yeah, number 4 for me, still an excellent album. So, Marty, your turn. What you going to do with this one?
Well, I remember when I got this, I was initially, I liked it, but I was a bit disappointed. I mean, the punk aesthetic was kind of fading a bit from their sound. It's still there. It's just the guitar tone is kind of ridiculous on this. It's so thick, and you could tell they had more of a budget. And they put whatever money they had into the recording of this. But there's only a few listens, and this thing, I could not stop listening to it. I listened to this thing over and over and over. And of course, In Union We Stand, the big anthemic track that was all over MTV, as well as Much Music and everywhere. It really sold this record for me, but they're really another looking at I completely agree with Alan's groupie assessment. Use Your Head and Fatal to Swallow back to back, and they don't stop. They do it later too. But Deny the Cross, Wrecking Crew, Fear His Name, Fatal If Swallowed is a great song regardless. Power Surge, and there isn't a bad song on here. The guitars very processed, but I do like them. They're just very heavy. For Bobby Gustafson, the only guitar player in here, you could tell they beefed up the tracks. They were not going to sound like this live, probably, as just a 4-piece, one being a singer. But it works here. It sold it, and it really moved units for him for sure. And it's on Megaforce Worldwide as well as Atlantic. Johnny Zazula was the executive producer of this too. So great record. This is number 3 for me, 1987. I don't know if we mentioned that. But number 3, and Under the Influences next came out in 1988. Oh, wait, before we do that, this came out first. This is the last recording with Rat Skates, I believe. It's a live set. Really good. Even has the answer on it, which is on this EP here. Never made it to an actual album, although they consider this their first. So I always loved this live album. It's very cool. Again, their attitude comes through on it. So yep, there's that. I'm not ranking it, but we are talking about this one, Under the Influence. Let me pull up the info real quick. There's a lot going on here all of a sudden. Under the Influence, additional notes. Recorded at Pyramid Sound. They're still at Pyramid Sound, Ithaca, New York. Mixed at Enterprise Studios, Burbank, California. Mastered at Sterling Sound, New York, New York. And again, Alex Perialis. Produced by Overkill and Alex Perialis. Executive producers, John and Marcia Zanzula. So, Darcy, what do you think of Under the Influence?
I want to touch on one thing too. You had mentioned a 4-piece, and there wasn't many bands that had a like of Overkill's stature that had a 4-piece where the vocalist only was the vocalist. You know, usually the vocalist was also a rhythm guitar player type of thing. So, yeah, they probably weren't able to replicate that live, but it's still, I still miss Bobby to this day. But anyways, on to the next one. So 1988's Under the Influence. Always loved this cover. And Alan got my fat head in proportion on the thumbnail. So, yeah, this guy's definitely not as fat a head as I have.
You should have wore a green shirt today.
Yeah. My green shirt's dirty, but yeah, 1988. So this was my first new release Overkill album, and I got this one sitting at I'm going to tell you, this one catches some shit sometimes, and it's always the same thing. Oh, the production. But I got this at number 6. I don't mind this production a bit.
Oh, wow. Okay.
A couple of other examples of this type of production would be 88. Look at Megadeth. So far, so good. So what? Not as thin sounding, but you got State of Euphoria from Anthrax, same producer, Alex Perialis. I don't mind this sound a bit. I've always liked this album. Got it at number 6. First album to feature new drummer Sid Falk. We got that continuation. Overkill number 3 is Under the Influence. I agree with Alan. Probably it's kind of a downhill slide with those, starting with Overkill, the very first one. But yeah, Shred, Hello from the Gutter. And I guess at that time, would you guys say that's probably the most commercial song they've ever made? But I like it. I love the video for it. Yeah, I still hold this one, pretty high. Drunken Wisdom, Head First, Shred, my number 6, Under the Influence. And I always thought it was cool that the Twin Towers were, if you look through that manhole, there's the Twin Towers behind there. But always loved the artwork too. My number 6.
All right. Alan.
Yeah, this album does take some shit sometimes. Like now.
Tell us how you feel, Alan.
It's not terrible, but it does some things I don't enjoy as much. I'm not sure how they pronounce their screen name. IKUS. Ilkus? Joran? Summed it up really nicely in the chat a couple of minutes ago. This album reeks of Anthrax. From the kind of cartoony cover art, which isn't bad, but I mean, it very much looks like a kind of, it's got that slightly cartoonish vibe to it, that Anthrax is famous for. And this is a band that up to this point, their album covers are meant to be kind of menacing, kind of in your face. And now you got like a kid, kind of doing the video game crawl through the sewer, looking to dodge the, end boss bat thing. It's a little cartoonish. The riffing starts to sound more Anthrax-like here. Some of the pacing in the songs is it sounds something like, straight off of, Among the Living, maybe, or Spreading the Disease. And it's not that it's terrible, but it just feels like you guys have your own unique sound and style. And to hear them start trying to, maybe good, like you said, Darcy, have a little broader appeal here, make something that's, going to kind of, keep up with, the Anthrax boys and, the others that are finding more success, it just doesn't sit quite right with me. Now there are some really good songs on here, but for every good song, there's a song I don't like. For example, Shred, nice opener, good. But then there's Never Say Never, and that song just bores me. Hello from the Gutter is fantastic. Love that song. But Brain Fade is really good. But then you have Drunken Wisdom and End of the Line, and these songs kind of just meander in that kind of mid-paced thrash mosh pit vibe a little bit, and don't really ever go anywhere. So it's a very back and forth album for me. Love it for the good songs. Definitely want to skip multiple songs when I play through this one, though. Ranking this one was hard. I replayed this a couple of times in recent weeks to try to figure out where I wanted it. I've ended up putting it here at number 7. I'm giving it a grade C plus B minus, though. I'm just the good songs are maybe enough to keep you a little above average, but you're definitely getting docked points for multiple things at that point. And I will say, this album could be ranked lower than 7. This is the kind of thing, if we re-rank these in a year or two, I wouldn't be surprised if I had this album lower, as we'll talk about later. Some of their more recent albums, I am pretty new to. There's chunks of their catalog I've only heard here in the past month while we've been preparing for this. I think some of those albums are quite good, and if I get more familiar with them, I think they're going to move up the ranking, and this is going to be one that moves down the ranking to make room for them. So for now, it's number 7, but it may be holding that spot kind of tenuously. So it's an okay album. It is not my favorite. It's not one I reach for very often, other than to hear a couple of songs. So yeah, we'll leave it there, and we'll see what Marty's got to say about this one.
All right. When this album came out, bought it first day. Went to the store, got it the day it came out. And I'm not going to lie, I was disappointed. Obviously, I just found out by buying this record that Rat Skates wasn't on it. And Sid Falk, good enough drummer. He wasn't as reckless as Rat Skates and just didn't have the fire. His stuff was very clean. And in fact, people complain about the production. It still sounds like Overkill. And I guess we should maybe have mentioned early on, the sound of Overkill, obviously Blitz's voice is very, a good identifier, but DD Verni's bass tone. Early on, he used Rickenbacker, which has a clang to it anyway, but they really amped that up in the mix, and he has a very metallic, clanky bass tone, which, as they get a bit more budget, they start to process, and it just really stands out. And it's always been, people are saying hardcore punk in the chat here. It has a hardcore punk vibe to it, and I always loved that about Overkill. And some later albums, they kind of mix it out, so it changes the vibe a bit. But this record was very clean sounding. I did not like the song Shred. They start off with a banger, which is what you're supposed to do. I didn't like the lyrics, and I thought the start-stop nature of the they go from speed to just kind of a meandering verse lines, and then speed to the chorus. I never liked it. And then you got Head First, don't compromise. You'll let us in. You'll spread them wide. We're coming in head first. It isn't from a Blitz perspective. It's we, as in the band. It's makes it just a bit grosser to me. But there's I like Mad Gone World. Brain Fade's a good song. And I ended up listening to this enough times where I started to like it. But I found whenever I was going to listen to Overkill, which back then was a lot, it was always the 2 albums that came before it. So I end up this week classifying it 6. Me and Darcy are cheating off each other's paper on this one, I do believe. But this is still a good record. It was cool listening to it this week, but it still just doesn't sit high on the throne like the 2 before it.
That's fair.
Well, a couple things.
Thanks, Mike.
I should have busted this out too. If you want to hear a little bit of a thicker version of this is the Rock Candy version that came out probably, I don't know, 4 years ago. So fully remastered audio. So if you want a little more thickness on the bottom end, go check out this version. It's actually, it makes this album, I don't know. I like both versions, but if that's part of your issue, is that thinner sound.
I don't think the songs were as good. I mean, there's some good songs on it. It's still overkill, but I don't think the songs were as. You could tell they were turning and burning at this point, you know.
And they missed Rat too. That this was definitely a transitional time for the band for sure.
Yeah.
Didn't have quite the direction, but yeah, check this one out if you haven't. And yeah.
Well, that
I'm actually, by what you guys said, I'm surprised at your rankings. I was expecting lower from both of you.
Huh.
I had it lower like 3 weeks ago when I first kind of was putting numbers on these. I had it at about 10 or 11, and playing it a couple of times, like there are enough songs on here I like, and I do know them better than some of the other albums that I had put just ahead of it. So I'm like, it's probably not fair to knock it down that far.
Well, but, and the opposite happened to me. This one's moved up over the ladder as I've gotten much more time with the new stuff from, 2007 till 2024. So Under the Influence is actually, notched up for me. So kind of the reverse happened. So.
Okay.
All right.
What are we on?
Next up, we're going to 1989, the year I graduated high school, with the Years of Decay, and a little bit of studio notes. It was recorded and mixed at Carriage House Studios, Stamford, Connecticut, mastered at Masterdisc in Peekskill, New York, and co-produced by Overkill and Terry Date, who is known for a lot of bigger bands that have come through, Pantera being one of them, I believe.
Metal Church.
I mean, tons of bands from the time.
You said Pantera. Yeah.
Yep. So, Darcy, Years of Decay.
Years of Decay. Well, I'm not going to hold down the suspense. This is my number one Overkill album. It's never wavered. I've never ever would consider knocking this. This is just perfection to me. Terry Date brought in there's just a better sound on this album. He brought a really wall of sound, I guess you could call it. Every instrument is just perfection on here. Sadly, the last to feature Bobby on guitars. Still got Sid on drums. Some of my absolute favorite Overkill songs on this would be Elimination. I mean, that just I could listen to that every day for the rest of my life, and it wouldn't bug me. But actually, my favorite Overkill song period is on this album, and that is Playing with Spiders, Skull Crusher. And just the lyrics, the whole thing. I mean, it just gives me the chills talking about it. And I Hate has always been one of my favorites.
This album rules, man.
Yeah, open your mouth one more time. My foot's going down. I mean, it doesn't get any better than that. And a few people might not know this, but Overkill 4 is on this album, but it's kind of disguised. It's Evil Never Dies is part 4 of that 5-part so far, anyways. But yeah, number one, and it's going to stay number one. It would take a hell of an album to knock this off any perch. So one of my favorite albums of all times. This is top 4 for me of favorite albums of all time. So number 1.
Right on. Alan, what are your thoughts?
Special album for me. It's either the first or second album I heard by the band. It was the album, though, I read about the band and kind of learned about them. And I've told this story before, so apologies to longtime viewers. I'll keep it short. My sister had gotten one of these random, hit parade, Tiger Beat kind of, magazines with, the glossy pictures of Sebastian Bach with his shirt open, and his scrawny nipples hanging out, as the centerfold. And I just, was looking at the cover of it, and it had, again, Bon Jovi and Trickster and all these kind of bands. But at the very bottom, it had like, a little blurb on the covers, like, Bobby Blitz, does he really hate you or something like that? I'm just like, that's different, for a magazine that's meant to be like all bubblegum pop and teeny bopper girls. So I was like, well, what's this about some guy who hates people? And they actually had a short feature on Overkill, and it was, when this album was getting ready to come out. And so I was like, that's different. I got to check that band out. So next time went to, a couple of towns over, record store had it, and they would not sell it to me because it had the parental advisory sticker on it. And I was, 15 probably ish. So yeah, they wouldn't sell me a copy of Years of Decay. So my mom went back, went back out to the car, and I was like, didn't you buy anything? She's like, yeah, stupid, blah, blah, blah. She's like, oh, for God's sake. Went back in the place herself, came out with a copy of Years of Decay. She's like, this is the one you wanted, right? I'm just like, you're awesome, Mom. So yes, Mom had to buy that one for me. So because of that stupid parental advisory sticker. On to the album itself. This is not just my number one Overkill album. It's not just my favorite thrash metal album of all time. This is my second favorite heavy metal album ever made. There's only one album that I would rank higher than Years of Decay.
Say it so everybody can drink.
I know what it is. Sabotage.
Nope.
No?
Go ahead, Marty. You know you want to.
Halloween Keepers Part 1.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, we get our Halloween drink in for the night.
Sabotage number 3 then. Okay, cheers.
Sabotage is way up there too. But yes, this is my second most favorite album of all time. Like folks have been saying in the chat, everything about this album absolutely crushes. Yes, songs like Elimination and I Hate. I mean, I learned these by heart in high school. Not trying to be scary, but it would you could scare the hell out of kids on the bus, just sitting in the back, screaming out the lyrics to I Hate with your friends. It's just like, you guys could have beat us up or something. So like, no, we're just singing to the song, man. It's like, yeah, but you're saying you hate everything. we thought you were like a math nerd, and now you're scary. But absolute highlight though. I agree with Darcy. Playing with Spiders, Skull Crusher. It's such a different song for them, going just ultra slow, heavy, doomy, creepy. I fucking love it. It's amazingly well done. Tons of good stuff on the B-side too. Birth of Tension. Really, they really convey that sense of tension through the music and the lyrics. Who Tends the Fire is a very good one. Years of Decay is a very good one. Evil Never Dies is actually pretty good. Now, this is, yes, Darcy's done a good job keeping track of the chapters. This is my second favorite chapter after the original chapter. So, yeah, yep. It's an album where just every song is absolutely classic, killer. Love the album to death. It is an A+. It is number one in the Overkill rankings. It is number one in all rankings that do not involve Halloween Keeper of the Seven Keys Part 1. It has been my second most favorite heavy metal album for, I think I figured this out sometime back in the 90s. So pushing 30 years of recognizing this as the second best heavy metal album ever made for my personal rankings. So Marty, Darcy put it number one, and I put it number one. But you can't put it at number one because you already used your number one. So where do you put it?
I don't feel bad about my number one at all, to be honest. But
no, and you should. Where do you rank this one?
That was a good choice.
Yep.
Oh yeah. If not for this album, Feel the Fire would easily be my number one.
You can call this 1A then, okay?
Yep. Well, Overkill really corrected the ship a lot after Under the Influence. Again, some good songs on that record, but here. Yeah, there was a toilet water explosion in my original pressing. My Overkill collection was part of the fatality of the water running from the upstairs to the downstairs. So that hurts my soul a little bit. But anyway, every song on here is good. It's from good to great. And Terry Date really perfected he highlighted all the things that is Overkill, like Verni's bass, Blitz. Gustafson's riffs are really good. He took the modern Overkill sound and made it fuller, more professional. This is a very good sounding record. Someone mentioned, doesn't matter if it's on a Bluetooth speaker, in the car, wherever you're at, this record sounds awesome. And you're not wrong. It's just well produced. There is Sid Falk has settled into the position. this is where they're starting to sound very thrash for me. I mean, they were kind of doing it a bit on the album before, but this is thrash metal to me, and it suits them very, very well. They don't ever lose sight of the punk. They do maybe a little bit later on, but man, The Birth of Tension, Nothing to Die For is a big favorite song of mine. I love the feeling of it. I love the lyrics. The way that song is put together just absolutely destroys. I Hate, of course, the anthem is just great. Time to Kill, Elimination, Birth of Tension, Years of... Another one. You talk about it, you hold it in your hand, you look at it, you're like, fuck, I want to listen to this.
Yeah. What you gonna do when it comes? Oh.
Yeah, I know. So good. For me, obviously my number one is Eaten Up, but this is my number 2 Overkill record, Years of Decay.
Nice pick.
Which brings us to 1991. Let me get my shit up here so we have some little more information. Horrorscope. This was recorded and mixed at Carriage House Studios again, Stamford, Connecticut. Mastered at Masterdisc, New York City. And I believe it's Terry Date again. Yep. So they stuck with the winning combination, and they put out an excellent companion piece to the Years of Decay. Darcy, what do you think about Horrorscope?
Well, so yeah, you already mentioned Terry Date, so that's the second album in a row that Terry was on the production end of things. And changes were in the air, and at the time, I was trying to think of how I thought about hearing about Bobby leaving. I could say nowadays that I was shitting my pants, but I don't know if I was back then. I don't know if I thought that way. But instead, they brought in 2 guitar players. They brought in Merritt Gantz, but Merritt didn't have a lot to do with this album. Rob Canavino had the most to do with this, but yeah, at this time they're a 5-piece now. Other changes were, this is the last album to feature Sid Falk on drums. But was I worried? I don't know, because when I heard this, I wasn't worried, because this is it's a fucking awesome album. I will tell you that right now.
Oh yeah.
This is my number 5. When you put this on and that lead into Coma, which is an absolute thrasher piece.
God, it's great.
Yeah, you know what? I don't know. Even the Frankenstein cover, the only reason that's on there is because Canavino and Sid wanted to, they thought it would be a good idea if they suggested they covered that, but you can throw that one out the window. But there's so many good songs on here. Blood Money, Thanks for Nothing. One of my personal favorites is Nice Day for a Funeral.
Oh, I love that song.
I love that song, but again, like Skull Crusher, I could play Coma every day of my life for the rest of my life and not be sick of it. Yeah, and they went to, I thought, great, they're a 5-piece, and this is my second, I guess this is the second favorite lineup of Overkill for me. Maybe not the second favorite era, but I love this lineup with Gant and Canavino. And you got DD and Blitz there, of course, and Falk on drums. But, yeah, this is my number 3, Horrorscope.
Thank you, Tony. Thank you, Tony. You rule. Thank you.
Tony, really appreciate that, man. Number 3 for Darcy. All right.
Number 3 for Darcy. All right.
Love it.
Alan, Horrorscope.
Yeah, so, this was a big album for me since, I had really fallen hard for the band. And this was the first one I got to buy. I guess I kind of got Years of Decay when it was kind of new-ish, but this was the first one I was waiting for. It's like, oh, there's a new Overkill coming out, and it did not disappoint at all. Yeah, Darcy hit a lot of the highlights, but yeah, Coma, has a cool intro, and then it just absolutely pummels you. Killer track. Lots of really good ones. Thanks for Nothing, has that kind of big drum wind up at the beginning, and then just again, absolutely blasts off.
And I forgot to mention Bare Bones. Fuck.
Yes, Bare Bones, a nice, really heavy grinder one. Horrorscope, a lot of folks who point out the title track, and yes, that one's got a great atmosphere to it. I like New Machine. It's a little slower, but it's got a little bit of that doomy
epic riff. Very epic riff to it. I dig it.
Yep. Personally, I don't even mind the Frankenstein thing. I think it just kind of it's short. It's not necessary, but it's not bad, and it just kind of resets things a little bit. But it's kind of fun, and they actually mosh out to it pretty well.
Yeah.
So yeah, the only complaint with this album a little bit, I don't mind Nice Day for a Funeral, and I don't mind Solitude, but I don't like them back to back to end the album. I feel like somehow that the album winds down a little bit on those last two tracks. And I wish maybe, they had just like, one more screamer at the end rather than those two tracks back to back. So maybe just put them a little different in the track order somewhere. Instead, I'd like this to have like, an Evil Never Dies or something at the end to just, really rip your face off one more time before it plays off. But yeah, excellent album. Has always held up very well. It's an album for some reason I'm always worried that when I take it off the shelf and play, I'm like, I wonder if this is going to hold up. Because it's not one I play all the time. It's like, it's been a few years. Is this really as good as I remember it? Yeah, it is. It absolutely is. So yes, I've got this one ranked also at number 3, same as Darcy. I give this a good A- kind of grade. I want to take off a few points because, like I said, I wish they had something just a little more powerful there towards the end of the album instead of Nice Day for a Funeral and Solitude back to back. But it's still an A kind of grade and still a fantastic album. So yeah, Marty, your turn. What do you think?
Secret Agent Randy Beans, thanks for the super chat. You rule, sir. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Secret Agent. I missed that one while I was babbling.
Well, I'll tell you what. If it wasn't for the Years of Decay, this would have been my number 2, maybe. But as it stands, it's number 4. But that's not saying it's bad. I mean, this is just as good as Years of Decay. Coma, what an awesome song, man. What a great leadoff track. Blood Money, Thanks for Nothing, Horrorscope, New Machine. This whole album. I mean, the Frankenstein cover, they do a great job on it. Doesn't bother me. It didn't need to be there, but it's there and it's fine. It's not offensive. Again, the Terry Date production, he continues. It's very similar to the Years of Decay. It's a very full, modern Overkill production, even with 2 guitar players. Verni cuts through this mix, and with that clanging bass, it really adds, it holds tight to the punk aesthetic. This album rules from start to finish. Absolute banger. And it's just an absolute shock how excited I was about this and for what was to come after it. And we'll get into that. This is my number 4, if I didn't say it already. Came out in 1991, and that brings us to 1993's I Hear Black. Let me pull up the information real quick. I Hear Black. Additional notes. Recorded at Pyramid Sound, Ithaca, New York. We're back to Pyramid Sounds. Mastered at Hit Factory, New York, New York. Produced by Alex Perialis again and Overkill. So they returned home, essentially. They go back to Pyramid Sound and Alex Perialis. Where does this one sit with you?
Well, a little backstory on this album too. At that point, Terry Date became super in demand. Okay, a lot of people couldn't get him or afford him anymore, and I don't know if that exactly was the case with Overkill, but yes, they returned to familiar territory with Alex Perialis. 1991, so this is 2 years later. I Hear Black, which is often referred to as their Black Sabbath album. This would be the most doomiest Overkill album you'll get. There is doomy Overkill songs in their discography, but overall this has more of a doomy vibe, thin on the production. You're waiting for me to tell you where I have this. This is my number 12. This is a 6th overall studio album. This one, I think it gets maybe too much shit. I do understand the shit part about it. The other thing, maybe the casual fan might not know, is this was recorded live in the studio. So there is no breakout where they just record drums. They recorded everything live together. So there's that vibe. again, thinner on the production for sure, and got that doomy vibe, but there's some killer songs on here. My favorite being, and I have to turn this over because all this is Spiritual Void, Weight of the World. Those are two tracks that really stick out to me. Dreaming in Columbia, the title track, I Hear Black, is good. So this one is actually, over the years, kind of moved up, and number 12, I got no problem putting this at number 12. I still enjoy it. Still with Gant and Cannavino on guitars, so they're still the 5-piece. But yes, these are the guys that made Horrorscope, so I
don't want to say that's true.
If you're disappointed. Comparing it to Horrorscope, I can't. I mean, Horrorscope is my number 3. This is my number 12. That's the difference, but I still enjoy this album. There you go.
All right, Alan. Hey, yo, I'm ready to tee off on him.
I've prepared a statement.
Okay.
Let's see here.
My number 20 is.
So they say Overkill is back with an album, I Hear Black. I think this album sounds too tame. In fact, I think it's really lame. I did not like it in the store. I think it is a total bore. I did not like it in the pit. I do not think it is a hit. Music sounds so gray and cold, and Blitz is sounding really old. Where's his anger? Where's his piss? Where's his sneer? Where's his hiss? No, I do not like it. Not one bit. You hear black. I hear shit.
Fucking Dr. Seuss, man.
Professor Seuss.
Yeah, awesome. Nice statement.
Cheers.
This, I'm assuming, is your number 5?
Yeah, your number 3.
So yeah, funny notes. Up to this point, all 3 of us have already used our 1, 2, 3, and 4 picks, and we were actually very close. Under the influence was 6, 6, and 7. So yeah, we've been really consistent here. I said before that Years of Decay, my second favorite album of all time. I've never ranked my least favorite albums of all time. This would be in contention. and I do not say that with hyperbole, but I would seriously consider this one of the worst albums I ever heard. And there's just multiple layers to it. People always refer to it as the Sabbath album. I don't get that. I think it's an insult to Black Sabbath to even mention this in the same name as Sabbath. I think they say it's a Sabbath album because it's slow. And they just think, okay, well, Sabbath was like a downer slow band, right? Yes, thank you. Go back to Hot Topic and buy another Cradle of Filth t-shirt. You don't know what the fuck you're talking about. Everything about this album, though, is just a downer. There is no fire to it. There's no fury to it. There's a little, there's some kind of wannabe, Cowboys from Hell and vulgar display of power are popular. I guess we should maybe try some of that, but we don't know how to do it yet, so it doesn't work. But, you get to like, songs like, Shades of Grey, and it's just this dreary song where, Blitz kind of doing these lamentable vocals about, and I watch the smoke drift away from my cigarette. I'm just like, who fucking shot your kitten? I mean, the fuck? It's just everything that Overkill wasn't up to this point. Overkill, it was always fast, furious, attitude. And this album is just flat. The thing that really kind of puts it over the top and why I have such a personal, strong distaste for it is when it came out. It came out in the spring of '93. Music and metal in particular were going through, big changes in the United States at this point. Grunge was quickly shooing away all the more popular kind of metal stuff. Pantera and Biohazard and that kind of stuff was quickly shooing away all the thrash metal and that kind of stuff. There had been some pretty disappointing albums, leading up to this point. The Black Album was a big disappointment. Countdown to Extinction, I did not get into at all. Testament's The Ritual is technically correct and horribly safe and boring. But when I heard there was another Overkill album coming out, this was the one I kind of really pinned my hopes on. It's like, this is going to be the metal album of the year. All the other bands are starting to suck, Sound of White Noise and all that stuff. This is going to be the one that doesn't suck. And, March 93, I had very little money. I mean, I was scraping together money to buy anything. I made sure I had, the $14.99 or whatever to buy this the day it came out. I took it back, to campus and I played it. And I just sat there thinking, what the fuck? You got to be kidding me. And that disappointment has never left. I've played it a couple of times here in the past month. I mean, I did go back and give it another chance. Like Darcy said, maybe it's grown a little bit. Maybe it wasn't that bad. Maybe time heals all wounds. No, time does not heal. Dark Angel knew that, and so do I, because this album still blows donkey balls for quarters, man. Fuck this album. Fuck this band for ever making this album. It's a total piece of boring, sellout, wannabe Pantera shit, and I couldn't hate it more if I tried. We covered the I Hate song on Years of Decay. I hate this fucking album. It's a rank 20. It is an F. And I don't give a lot of albums an F. Most times I can find something redeemable about. This album sucks. Now I'm done.
Man, you must feel you got it all out. You got it all out. You feel better now.
And all of a sudden, the stress is gone.
I could come up here and say what he said, because this is my number 20 as well. And the Black Sabbath thing, I've heard this before, and there is never once did it occur to me that this sounded like Black Sabbath.
Never. I have no idea where that comes from.
I hear a Seattle thing. I hear some Alice in Chains in here. I hear some, and Blitz actually trying to sing, which he can, but it just doesn't fit. His voice is just set up for that sneer, for that venom, and just him going soft on it and trying to sing on these parts. It's gross. It's gross. I don't like it. I think this, what did I write in my notes? Predominantly mid-paced and groovy. And I got to say, this is the beginning of a 9-album run where the shit is on their breath for 9 albums. It is. I hate to say that, but they kind of abandoned the thrash vibe, because obviously times are changing, as Alan mentioned, grunge, this and that. Times are changing. They're not as thrashy anymore. They're going more groove. They're going more Pantera at times. I'm just like, what the hell happened to my Overkill? And it's a 9-album run, and you're going to see that from my rankings here. But what else do I have? Horribly boring album. I mean, it just is. And people that like it, cool, man. It's a 51-minute. And this is another thing. Overkill Records. They really stick around the 50-minute mark. Sometimes they go over. Sometimes they go just a bit under. If the music is bad or uninteresting, it makes that record feel like it takes a week to get over. And it was never more apparent than this week when you're putting them one after the other, when you're listening to these things. It's just like, oh my God, I'm in like a time warp. I don't know, but I get it. Times are hard at this point. That might be harsh, but at the end of the day, they still sound like Overkill, which is a thumbs up. That's one advantage on this. They didn't, though they kind of dropped the thrash, the speed, the ferocity, and settled on a groovy mid-paced thing, they still sound like Overkill. So that's something. And there's something on all these albums coming up that appeal to me. There's good songs on all of them, but they're not good albums. They're not from start to back albums I want to listen to. If you could like Frankenstein some of the tracks from all these 9 records, you might have a passable record here. But we're starting off with number 20 in my ranking. I Hear Black. I second shimmering turd of an album.
Well, I'm only 8 notches above you guys on that one at number 12, but I'm sure there might be at least 2 people in the comments that might lean.
There's some people that like it, and that's fine.
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, I ranted about it, but if you like it, don't feel bad about it.
Nope.
My opinion should not affect your enjoyment of it whatsoever.
I was thinking about one of my absolute favorite albums from 1993, which it was an Overkill. This is one that I was listening to. I'll hold it up. Life of Agony, River Runs Red. I mean, that was probably one of my favorite albums of 93. And Overkill would have been like number 25 or something. Who knows? I didn't keep track back then. But anyways, what's next? We got
Yep, we've got 1994's W.F.O, which stands for Wide Fucking Open. It was produced by Overkill, recorded and mixed at Ambient Recording Company, Stamford, Connecticut. They're sticking to Stamford, man. They're close to home, and makes sense. Why travel all over the world to record? Although they do that later, and it saves the day, by the way. This little bit of foreshadowing. But, yep, recorded in May 1994. And Darcy, what do you think of W.F.O?
Yeah, a decent album. This is the last to feature this lineup. Didn't mention that on I Hear Black, they brought in a new drummer, Tim Mallory. He's featured on this one, but this is the last to feature Gant and Canavino as the two guitar players. 1994, so quick turnaround since I Hear Black, and maybe at the time, obviously, that didn't go over so well. But I enjoy this album. I got to throw it in at this time. So far, what album number are we on? Is this their what?
This is their 7th studio release.
This is their 7th studio album. And so far, in these 7 studio albums, they have not made one album that was the same. And that continues till about 10 or 11 albums, which I'll talk about as we go on. But W.F.O is their 7th album and is my 7th favorite album. This one, now, what people complain about is DD's bass. It's turned up in the mix. You know what? This is opposite of And Justice for All, which has no bass. I never, as I grew older, I don't criticize albums like this for being like this anymore. I actually appreciate them more. Just like I could care less if they ever remastered and threw in bass on And Justice for All. It's how I know it.
Yeah, it is what it is at this point.
I don't quite agree with the groove. It hasn't hit here yet. Not like it will. The songs are very strong on here. My favorite song is The Weight, New Highs and Lows. There's a little thing from Carlito's Way. You're up against it now, motherfucker. And then the guitar tone on this, even though it's thin, it is relentless. I love the guitar tone on it. Where It Hurts, Fast Junkie, Gasoline Dreams, Supersonic Hate is another great one. There is a little ode to Chris Oliva on here called Rip Undone. That is from Rob Canavino. And that's where the title comes from, too. It's basically was Rob Canavino's love for motorcycle riding. And Blitz said, hey, what does that even mean? What does W.F.O mean? He says, it means wide fucking open. Title of the album. So, yeah, that's my number 7. And for 1994, not bad.
All right. Alan.
Yeah, so when this one came out, a lot of trepidation, considering what we just talked about a few minutes ago.
Did it wash the taste of shit out of your mouth?
It absolutely did. I thought this was a great bounce back and a very strong return to form. It's not without its issues. It's not perfect, but it amazed me that they could change. Basically, again, this is just barely a year later. I don't know the exact release dates, but we went 93, I Hear Black, 94, Wide Fucking Open comes out. And it's just like, wait, this is Overkill. This is what they're supposed to do. And again, it just made I Hear Black all the more confounding. It's like, how did that weird album end up sandwiched in between? This sounds more like what should have followed up Horrorscope. Yeah, I've got no issues with DD's bass sound. I've always liked DD's bass sound. It's always kind of prominent in the music. Makes sense as he's one of the 2 long-term key members. But I've always like his presence. You can hear it, and even without Bobby's very distinctive voice, you can kind of recognize Overkill just based on DD's playing a lot of the time. But yeah, this one's got, it's got some good songs. It's got a few misfires on it too. And you are starting to hear still some 90s isms, like, the sampling from Carlito's Way. Samples were a thing in 90s metal. You had to put a sample of something in the song somewhere. Most of the time they don't work very well and were just kind of either annoying or distracting, but they're not too much of a problem here. Yes, it's starting getting a little bit more of that kind of groove direction that they're going to go further and further into as we go, but it's not too strong here yet. By 1994 standards, this is actually a very good thrash album. Think about what all the other thrash bands are doing in 1994 and tell me one that was doing a better job of it out of the big bands. I'll wait. It may take you a while. Where It Hurts, pretty good opener. It at least right away, that one song's got more energy than the entire previous album did. So it lets you know that, yes, they're going to try to do something right here. Lots of good parts on other songs. Under One, What's Your Problem? The song for me on this one, and a couple of folks have already called it out in the chat, is Bastard Nation. It's one of the few times Overkill goes for one of these kind of big anthemic songs where you're supposed to all get your fists up in the air and raise the horns and all this stuff. And they do it really, really well. It's a fantastic song. So again, not everything on here is gold. But I've always liked the album simply because it seemed like, okay, they had their one album hiccup, and now they're working very quickly on reestablishing themselves as legit. And compared to everything, again, it helped compared to everything else, thrash bands were doing in 94. This just looked all the better. But yeah, I got this day it was released. I was working, summer 94, working in Burger King. So I had to drive, again, a couple of towns over to get to a record store. There was a little mom and pop store that would carry some of this kind of stuff. The store owner's daughter, worked the cash register most of the time. We would all drive from several towns over just to see Lisa because, she would literally dress like a fashion model to work in this little record store in this little strip mall of a place.
She wanted fries with that.
She was always nice, always just, but I mean, just, always, full makeup dress, actually wearing like, dresses like you would like wear to like a prom or something. I'm just so like, I want this, please. And take your time bringing it up, please, miss.
Oh, you screwed up. No problem. That's fine.
That's it. Yeah. It was always, very, very nice to everybody that came in the store, no matter what they were buying or not buying. So, yes, lots of good memories tied to Wide Fucking Open is the bottom line.
Lisa wanted Alan's fries.
I've got this ranked as number 5.
Nice.
It's
nice.
One that might slide down a little bit over time. Again, some of the newer albums I like. I don't have the same kind of sentimental attachment to them I do this album. So yeah, I would give this like a good B+ kind of grade. It's not on the A tier, but it's still an album I can still enjoy. And it's actually held up better than I thought it might have over time. Again, this is one I don't play often. A little worried it might have revisited it here and been like, oh yeah, now I hear that it's not so great, but no, it's held up well. So 5th for me, but now based on Marty's foreshadowing a little bit earlier, sounds like you may not be too into this one. So Marty,
hey, Alan, can I ask you one thing too?
Oh, please do.
We got to mention that this is the last album on Atlantic Records, 1994. How do you feel about that? Like, was it just the time? Because it's a decent album, but was it just time for everybody to get chopped? I mean, I think even
they probably fulfilled their contract.
Hey, even Testament got chopped in 1994 too, right? So
yeah, I think you're right, Darcy. I think it was just the bands had fulfilled their contracts. Thrash was not a huge, it wasn't the hot thing domestically in the States anymore. So I don't think it surprised anybody that Atlantic was cutting ties with these kind of bands and not giving them like a renewal. So I have no idea how the album performed in terms of sales. And I don't know how Atlantic would try to view that thing. would view sales with a band like Overkill or Testament anyway, but yeah, I'm sure they just felt like, like, okay, yep, you guys fulfilled your contract, best of luck in your future endeavors, and now we're off to, chase down the latest, hottest thing out of Seattle.
Yep.
Well, what do you think of it, Marty?
Well, first off, thanks, Frosty, for the $20. We appreciate you, man. And
thank you very much,
over 100 people tonight. Thank you, everybody. You guys are the coolest community in the Metal VC. I'm saying that.
Yeah, everybody's really active in the chat tonight too. Lots
Yeah.
of folks apparently really love Overkill. Good to see.
Yep. And let's see. I have notes for this. Pull this up. This
Do you
album.
have a Dr. Seuss poem for this?
No, I'm not that fancy. This album is 52 minutes 43 seconds long, which is about what you're going to get out of Overkill from here on out. The overall production works, but the mastering makes the album feel choked down a bit or small, which is kind of weird coming off of the Terry Date stuff. Overkill on damage control, trying to recapture their earlier vibrancy on this album. Still a lot of bluesy scales and groove on here, but it's a slight improvement. Where It Hurts is a solid opener. Fast Junkie is passable, but the chorus is a bit silly.
Mm-hmm.
Bastard Nation is anthemic due to the sing-along chorus, and it's a great album closer. The album has a handful of energetic moments, but is a window into what is coming for the remainder of the 90s and 2000s. Into the 2000s, Overkill is slowing down a bit and getting groovier. So whether you like that or not, here it comes. But I gotta say, is there a more 90s looking album cover? I mean, I don't know. The whole thing just reeks of the 90s, which makes sense. This for me is number 13. I don't hate it. I think it's a pretty decent record. Like I said, it doesn't take much to improve over the what came before it.
That is a pretty low bar to clear.
A low bar. So number 13, before we get into The Killing Kind, we got 1985 to 1995 Overkill Live, Wrecking Your Neck. I don't know, you have that, Darcy, to show? I'm sure you got the vinyl of it.
No, actually, I don't have the vinyl of that one.
I haven't heard that in 20, 30 years.
I haven't listened to it either.
Oh yeah, great live album, recorded live at the Agora in Cleveland.
I've been there once.
Yeah. Rush has played there too, and lots of bands played there. But yeah, good live album.
Yep, for sure. But that leads us to The Killing Kind, which is this album here. Let me find a few notes to bring everybody up to speed.
This is studio release number 8.
Killing Kind, additional notes, came out in 1996. Recording information, recorded at Carriage House Studios, Stamford, Connecticut. September, October 1995. Mastered at Masterdisc, New York City. Overkill, they stick with what they know. They don't do a lot of adventuring when it comes to recording stuff. Seems like the Terry Date thing was kind of a big deal. Maybe a big move for those guys. But, yep, Killing Kind. What do you think, Darcy?
Well, this was another new era of the band. Dropped from Atlantic Records. It's 1996. Bands like Metallica are doing Load and Reload in 96, 97. Megadeth doing whatever, Cryptic Writings, I think, something like that. And this is where I agree with you with the groove. This is right where and the new lineup had a lot to do with that. What they brought in Joe Como on guitar and Sebastian Marino. Joe Como, actually, if you want a really good Joe Como album, go out and get this. Get Liege Lord, Master Control. Now he's the vocalist on here. Yep. There's Joe with a full head of hair. This is an absolute killer U.S. power metal album. But Joe also plays guitar, and this is my least favorite lineup of the band with those two guys on guitar. They also threw in a lot of backing vocals with Joe and some chants and some back and forth with Bobby, which really didn't work. And yes, I'm a massive Overkill fan, but I am smart enough to know that, hey, every album is not fantastic, and this is one of them. I have this ranked at Killing Kind is my number 18.
Okay.
Right on.
Um,
Thank
you
you,
guys
Metal
all-
Ben. Appreciate you, man. Thanks for the $5. You rule.
Oh, thanks so much, Ben.
And you guys all know CMC International was a label that
Yep.
basically salvaged a lot of bands. No, I don't mean salvage, but they let bands continue. It was a label that a lot of bands went to that got dropped from some major labels.
Yep.
Songs to check out. I don't know. The leadoff track Battle isn't bad, but one of my favorites on here is a kind of a weird song. The closing one is called Cold Hard Fact. This is Overkill, kind of directionless, I would say. They're trying to adopt some of that groove. They're trying to get on with 2 new guitar players. Still the same drummer, Tim Mallory, of course, DD and Blitz. I'm just trying to think what else on here that certifiable, it's okay, but yeah, number 18, The Killing Kind. Oh, there's the lineup, by the way. And that's the other thing that bothered me at the time is they brought in, nothing against bald guys, but they brought in a bald guy and then another guy with a stream of hair and mostly bald. I'm like, where's the metal dudes? Like,
Jeez, I'm glad I wasn't in Overkill during that time. Darcy be calling out my bald ass right now. Got more hair on my ass than I do on my head. Anyway.
Yeah, so that's my number 18. So not one of my higher up choices, that's for sure.
Right on. Alan, your thoughts on The Killing Kind?
Yeah, this one's kind of interesting. Like Darcy said, they've brought in 2 guitarists and guys that had experience. Joe coming from Liege Lord and Marino was in Anvil at one point.
Yeah, one album.
Yep. Not for a long time, but a little bit. When this album came out, it was one I thought is another one I bought basically day of release. It wasn't bad, but it wasn't as good as Wide Fucking Open. And it kind of started. Now there's going to be a few albums in a row that kind of start to slide down a little bit for me, kind of like what you've described for yourself, Marty. That said, so played it for a while, eventually got rid of it. What's Sue saying?
Yes, it was referred to as the 2 bald guys there of the band.
I'm going to grab a drink.
So yeah, you're starting to hear, more of the grooves coming in for sure. You're doing again that, kind of annoying 90s sampling thing in some of the tracks, which I got tired of that during the 90s. It's just like, please, if I wanted to watch a movie or a TV show right now, I'd turn the stereo off. I don't need these little clips thrown in to try to spice up your song. If you're using that kind of gimmick, my knee-jerk reaction is always that you must feel like your songwriting's not very strong if you're going to rely on that kind of crap. Anyway, so yeah, I hadn't played this one in a long time until we started working on this. And again, we've been, we've had this, in the works with Darcy for well over a month. So, plenty of time to revisit things. And Killing Kind actually has held up a little better than I expected it to. I expected it might be down there close to where Darcy had it ranked, but I've got it a little bit higher. Looking through the track lists, Battle, is not a bad opener, although again, it's got this sample thing in it where they keep kind of repeating the yeah in the chorus, which kind of starts to grate on my nerves a bit. But after that, it opens up with a really good stormer of a track called Godlike. That one pounds really, really nicely. Burn You Down / To Ashes is a slower song. It's not Playing with Spiders Part 2, but it's operating in kind of the same place. So it's like, okay, they've taken another stab at that style and doing it okay. So there's some stuff on here that's not that bad. There's not a lot that, of songs that really stood out to me as stinkers. But again, you're definitely hearing them, get into that groove thing more. I guess the track that I definitely associate with the album the most, and that really highlights this, is Boldface Pagan Stomp. Which, yes, it's got one of these kind of, it's the stomping groovy kind of thing where you're, supposed to, start swinging.
Pagan.
Yeah, which it's not pagan at all. It's again, it's the jump into the pit, wearing your wife beater and throw your fists, to work out your anger that you're stuck in a lower blue collar job, with no upward mobility whatsoever, and your wife is cheating on you. So you're gonna go take it out on some poor schlub standing in front of you and elbow him in the back of the head while he's trying to enjoy his concert. Fuck that. But it's just one of those songs, it goes on a little bit too long. They keep going back to the chorus, and it's a little bit goofy. The chorus has this line about, how he's going to take his, size 11 waffle and, stick it down your throat or up your ass or up your throat or down your ass. I don't know. He's going to put his boots someplace. But just the fact that just the fact that they keep going back to this, line about, size 11 waffle. And it's just like, for some reason, it always makes me think like, they're hungry for waffle fries instead of thinking that you're describing the tread on the bottom of your Doc Martens. How clever. Do you want fries with that? Apparently you do, because you keep talking about it. I don't know. The song just doesn't work on multiple levels for me.
Yeah.
But yeah, so this one, at least it had held up better than I expected it to. So at the end of the day, where did I put this? I gave it kind of like a B- C+, kind of grade. Again, it's a little better than average, not great, but a little better than average. I ranked it as number 11, so it's in the bottom half of the discography, but just barely. Definitely worse Overkill albums than this. You could do a lot better, but you could do a lot worse. And that's my take on Killing Kind. So Marty, what's your take on this one?
I'm going to notes. This album's 45 minutes, 52 seconds long. Battle starts off the album with a lackluster groovy track with a reoccurring that Ellen mentioned.
Yeah.
It throws in to remind us all of the song Heaven Let Your Light Shine Down by the Collective Soul.
Yeah.
Not a great idea or a good track opener. Godlike would have made a much more sense with his energetic punch. Blitz vocals are noticeably subdued on this one. Some good songs, but there's a level of sonic and creative fatigue happening here. Yeah. So
I'll stop now.
Basically, whatever Alan said is right. They sound tired. They're still in the trenches. They're still swinging. They're still putting out some good stuff. There's some good songs on here. It's a tough record to sit and listen to, and it gets worse for me going forward here for a while anyway. Which brings us to...
Wait, where did you rank it then, Marty?
Oh, shit. Sorry. Number 14. No, wait.
So a step
down. Killing Kind, number 14. It's a step below W.F.O.
Below W.F.O. Okay.
And that moves us to From the Underground and Below. This came out in 1997 on Steamhammer. My copy is a CMC International BMG. Recorded and mixed at Carriage House Studios, Stamford, Connecticut, June through July 1997. Produced by Overkill. Pre-production at Gear Rehearsal Studios, Shrewsbury, New Jersey. So, FUCT stands for First Underground Commission on Termination. I don't know, whatever. Okay. Darcy, we're going into 1997 From the Underground Below. What do you think?
So, second album with this lineup. Year later.
I'll be right back.
Definitely, a different style of album cover too, From the Underground and Below. This one, Bobby Blitz has said, now maybe he regrets it nowadays. I don't know, that this is one of his favorite albums. Now, to me, this one's actually a tad overrated. They definitely got, this is a much better album than The Killing Kind, but it's still not great. Still got the grooviness, but as far as just the overall track listing, there's a little bit of everything in here for sure. But I got this one sitting at number 16, so 2 notches higher than The Killing Kind. And I've already said it tonight. This is kind of still my least favorite lineup of Overkill, or period, whatever you want to say. But there's some good tracks on here. It Lives is a great track, opens up the album. A couple other ones that stick out is Long Time Dying, Half Past Dead, and there's the Rip and Tear is kind of a bit of a looser song on here. But then there's almost a downright ballad on here called Promises, which is almost out of place in a way. It's probably it is the mellowest song Overkill's ever done. Promises.
Yep.
Wrapping up with a little bit of murder. Still, just trying to survive the 90s, I think, at this point. But yeah, there is my number. So what did I say? That is my number 16, 1997's From the Underground and Below. Still better than Metallica's Reload, in my opinion. Stuff like that, but not the greatest Overkill album.
No, that's fair.
So, Marty, I had that one at number 16, From the Underground and Below.
15 or 16?
16.
Okay, right on. Alan, what are your thoughts on the Underground and Below?
I also have it at number 16. But Darcy and I are kind of moving in opposite directions. He's moved up a little bit from Killing Time, and I've moved down several slots from Killing Time. When this one came out, it was another one, bought it on day of release. And I tried really hard to get into this album and never quite got there. Not a stinker, but by this point, yes, the 90s isms are really well entrenched in the music. And those kind of, devices just didn't work for me. Lots of groove working in here. Again, the sampling thing just kind of always irritates me. There's some, the opening pair of tracks, It Lives and Save Me, not bad, but they both have sampling, which they don't need. Don't like that. And Darcy's, right on the money too when he says that there's a little bit of everything on here. Yeah, there's the ballad with promises. Long Time Dying, not a bad song, but it's actually almost got a little bit of like a southern sludge kind of thing happening to it. It could have been a song by like the band Down, in my opinion. And Overkill actually goes back to that a bunch of times moving forward. There are multiple albums that have the Southern Fried Overkill kind of song on them. And they're not terrible songs, but yeah, you can just tell they're doing... It's something popular, so they feel they got to have it in the mix, it seems. The one on here, again, much like, the size 11 waffle just always tickles me the wrong way on Killing Kind. The Rip and Tear is the one on this album that I just can't listen to with a straight face. Because, yes, it's got this kind of weird, swingy, bouncy kind of chorus to it. But the lyrics are just dumb lyrics about being in the pit. And if you change the cadence just slightly, it becomes a square dance song. You can absolutely sing the chorus to this song in square dance mode. It's just like, everybody get your partner do-si-do. Everybody back with the to and fro. Hit somebody like you just don't care. Everybody's down with the rip and tear. Yeehaw!
Boy, Alan's the rhyme master tonight.
Holy.
DJ MC Colson here.
and because that is eternally stuck in my head. And as such, I can never take that song seriously because every time it comes on, it's just like, yep, time to get out the bibbed overalls and go dance with my attractive cousin. Here we go in the rip and tear. I just can't. So yeah, it's not a terrible album, but I don't think it's an essential one by the band whatsoever. Again, I give it like a C, maybe. If I'm in a good mood, C+. If I'm in a bad mood, C- kind of thing. But bottom line, rank 16, you're in the bottom 5 of a 20 album discography. So that's
MC Steele.
Oh, don't make me break out the NWA rap lyrics. I've rewritten more than a couple of hip hop songs with geology themes to amuse students over the years. That is not happening on this particular show. Don't worry. If I did that, everybody in the super chats would be asking for their money back.
That's right, refund.
But yeah, so again, it's not like. I wouldn't say it's a stinker of an album, but it just doesn't quite work for me. It feels like, yeah, they're trying to do too many different things and just not doing any of them top notch. So I put it somewhere give it a grade of C something, rank it 16, and then move right along to Marty. And what are you going to rank this one at, Marty?
All right. From the Underground and Below, 47 minutes, 7 seconds. Verni's bass tone, less metallic, more like traditional bass on this one. Very beefy. A lot of low end, and it's kind of sucks the life out of the guitar tone, I thought. Slower tracks with an attempt to be heavier. Accentuates the groove, makes the songs interchangeable. Half Past Dead is a miserable track, and the stink from it radiates out to the other tracks surrounding it. Man, I struggle with this record. This is my number 19. This is them just sounding tired. They've been trying to make something happen. 1997, you're almost out of the 2000s. Hang in there, Overkill. It's coming. It's coming, but they still have some bumpy road ahead of them, but it's coming. Reprieve is coming.
The road goes ever on.
It goes ever on. And I feel bad because, again, there's still a couple good songs here and there. It just still sounds like Overkill. But they're farting around with this groovy stuff, this Pantera, this southern shit. It doesn't fit. I don't like it. It's not my Overkill. But that brings us to 1999. Almost their Y2K record. Yeah, actually, we do have a Y2K record in here. This is Necroshine, 1999. Recorded, co-produced by Overkill. Who is the other person? Doesn't jump out here at me. Recorded and mixed at Carriage House Studio again, Stamford, Connecticut, November, December 1998. Pre-production Gear Rehearsal Studios, again, Shrewsbury, New York. They exact same thing they did on the last album. But Darcy, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, 1999, last with this lineup. So last with Sebastian Marino anyways. Joe Como, he hung around for the Overkill album, and then he was gone after that in 2000. No, 1999, that came out also. But so this is the third and last of that era of the band with the bald guy era. And to me, it's the best of the three albums. I have this one coming in at number 15. So this is one notch higher than From the Underground Below. I had that at 16. And a couple notches higher than The Killing Kind, which I had at number 18. This one, I think they finally did the best they could with this lineup. There's stronger songs on here. A song that they still play to this day, which is Necroshine. Great track, great live track too. And yeah, there's some other great tracks on here. 80 Cycles, I don't mind. But my personal favorite deep track would be Black Line. That is one of my favorite tracks on this one. So there is my number 15, Necroshine, which, as far as I know, I don't know if this has ever really got a vinyl release. It maybe got maybe a Korean pressing once. So this is definitely due for a reissue of every format, I guess you could say. But there it is, number 15.
Alan, your thoughts on Necroshine?
I had not thought about it before, but Darcy is right. This era of the band is just not a particularly strong one. This was the last Overkill album I checked out upon release for a very long time. After this one, like, you know what? There's just better and more interesting things. I don't need to be spending money on Overkill albums anymore. I just don't. This one, I've got it ranked at number 17. So again, kind of close to Darcy, but we're definitely trending in opposite directions with our rankings. He's going up with these, and they're going down in quality for me. And it's not that the album stinks or anything. It is not I Hear Black Part 2 or anything. It's just that, yeah, a lot of these songs just feel kind of dull. They've done stuff like this, but they've done it a lot better before. The one really strong track, and Darcy called it with his deep track called Blacklight. Yeah, that song is great. It's fast, it's energetic, it's got a ripping guitar solo to it. If the whole album or even half the album sounded like Blackline, this would be a fantastic album. But it's the only song that sounds like that on here. The rest of it is just, it's very average fare for Overkill. So you take a bunch of average songs, and you wrap them in what's got to be one of Travis Smith's least impressive album covers, and there's just not much to this package.
This is not a good album cover.
It is not a good album
No,
cover.
it's
Travis
not.
Smith has done some amazing cover art, but he has done some clunkers too.
Some
And
chicken
this
bones
one,
in there. You got some shitty Photoshop in there. It's all.
I mean, it is really shitty Photoshop. I'm looking
It
at
is.
it right now, and it's
Here's
like
here's one of Travis's worst covers. This is Flotsam and Jetsam, The Cold.
I've never even seen that album.
I have not
I
either.
had to throw that in there.
Flotsam and
Sorry, off
Jetsam
topic.
still putting out stuff. It's amazing to me.
They are. But yeah, this one. So yeah, just the cover looks wretched. You get one really good song and a bunch of stuff that, to be quite honest, with a catalog this deep, you don't necessarily need it. If you don't want all of it, you can pass on this. I ranked it 17th. I gave it a grade of C-. We're definitely in the kind of below average territory on this one. And yeah, if folks haven't noticed, yes, I'm like Marty. I'm kind of in a span here of a bunch of albums. I'm in the bottom part of the catalog for sure.
It's a rough 9 album run.
There's for me, it's not quite as long as yours, but 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 is a 7 album run that we're kind of in the middle of for me now. That I don't consider any of this stuff to be particularly good. But Marty, what's your official word on Necroshine?
Necroshine. Oh, my notes. 51 minutes, 5 seconds. Yeah, Logan mentioned that Marty keeps mentioning the album times. They must go long. Yeah, some of these records feel like they're an 8-hour shift to put in. From the Underground and Below to Electric Boogaloo. That's what this album feels like. Same sound, same moping along with boring groove riffs. Blitz trying to sing as on the song My December. This album feels like it could take a year to end. This era of Overkill feels like the lights are on, but no one's home. And yeah, again, it's funny. I'm bitching, but I've bought I have all their albums except for the latest one. I got around to buying it yet. The impact that this band has had on me, for the longest time, they're one of my favorite bands. I kept trying and trying and trying. Always appreciating the fact that I was indeed getting an Overkill album and putting it on. I'm like, yeah, it's Overkill. Cool. But always being dissatisfied at the end of it for a while. Mm-hmm. Like I said, the good's coming. It just takes a while. We gotta get this worked out. This is number 18 for me. This album is boring. This is boring. I struggle with this, but that brings us to the Y2K album.
Yep.
To year 2000, Bloodletting. This is to be noted. Dave Linsk enters the lineup on guitars on this one, who's been with the band ever since. Notes. Co-produced by Overkill, recorded and mixed at Carriage House Studios, Stamford, Connecticut, November, December 1998. I'm on the wrong album. Sorry. I thought I prepared a bit better, but I did not. Bloodletting. Here we go.
That's the first one with Dave Linsk.
Yep. Recorded at Carriage House Studios, Stamford, Connecticut, June, July 2000. Mixed at Sonalis Studios, Waterford, Connecticut, USA. Mastered at Masterdisc, New York. Pre-production Gear Rehearsal Studios, Shrewsbury, New Jersey. Not a lot has changed. No Overkill is sticking close to home and doing what they know. So, Bloodletting. What do you think, Darcy?
Okay, 2000. So this is the first time since our favorite, well, Alan and I's favorite album, since the Years of Decay, that they have been a 4-piece again. So out is Sebastian Marino and Joe Como. Like I told you before, Joe hung on for that Cover Kill album, which is not essential Overkill by any means. That covers album, it's okay, but 4-piece. And I have Bloodletting sitting at number 17. There are some standout tracks for me, but overall it's not the best from Overkill. I will admit that. The leadoff track, Thunderhead, is awesome. What I'm missing, but my favorite track on here is Death Comes Out to Play. I just think Blitz's vocals are awesome in that. He's like, in a darkened boneyard, Death Comes Out to Play. It's pretty cool. Let It Burn, not bad. I Hurricane, but not a lot of standouts. So this is 2000. they are a good decade away from really turning things around. But you know what? I still enjoy this album. But it is number 17.
All right. Alan, Bloodletting.
Yes, and again, now we're getting into a chunk of albums that I'm not as familiar with. Because like I said, after Necroshine, I was just parted ways with Overkill for a while. Bloodletting isn't terrible. It starts out kind of good. There's, the first few songs, double checking tracks now. Yeah, like Darcy said, Thunderhead, good opener. Sounds more like typical 90s era, but just better. Bleed Me is pretty good. What I'm Missing is pretty good. So the album starts well, but I feel like then it kind of very quickly just settles in. This was the first time I heard it a month or so ago, prepping for this. Yeah, those first 3 tracks, I'm like, oh, okay, hey, they got back on. I stopped listening too soon. They got back on track right after Necroshine. Well, not completely. The rest of the album, again, it's not terrible, but they're showing signs of life here. As such, I've got this ranked a little higher than the past 2. I ranked this one at number 15, but I'm willing to go in the C, at least the C plus, maybe the B minus kind of range for it. So we're getting back a little above average, at least here. There's at least a 1, 2, 3 opening sequence that is pretty solid. So yeah, don't have a ton to say on this one except for good start, but then just kind of coasts the rest of the way. But definitely better. The new lineup, they're doing better than they have for the last couple albums, at least in my opinion. So Marty, your take on Bloodletting, and yes, if anyone can explain that album cover, please do, because I got nothing.
Yeah,
Just slop together crap. All that is.
Not great.
51 minutes, 30 seconds. Brighter production, more life and more life in the sound in Verni. Sorry. More life and Verni clang in the bass tone. I'm having trouble reading my own notes. I've had too many White Claws. Still not perfect or trademark Verni, but it's getting close. Thunderhead, decent lead-off track. Bleed Me, bit more life in it. What I'm missing is some cool dynamics and twists in the songwriting. My Name is Pain and Can't Kill a Dead Man have some speed to help round out the album. Bloodletting is far from peak Overkill, but it's a noticeable step in a better direction. I gave this number 12. Number 12. A slight improvement over what's been going on here. And
that's fair.
Leads us to Killbox 13.
Yep. I'll be back in just a minute, guys.
Came out in 2003. Recorded at Gear Recording Studios, Shrewsbury, New Jersey, September, October 2002. Jesus. Mixed at Sonolis Studio, Waterford, Connecticut. Mastered at Masterdisc, New York City. So, 2003, Killbox 13. What do you think, Darcy?
Yeah, at that time too, it was one of their longest gaps. I mean, 3 years.
It is.
3 years between an Overkill album was an eternity back then.
Yep.
And that's where this numbering system comes into play. So this is their 12th studio album, but it is called Killbox 13. Because again, if you go way back to the beginning, you have to include that EP that Marty showed.
Already put it away. I was going to show it again, but I put it away already.
It's already in the mailbox heading to my house. So that's all right. Okay. All right. So here we are, Killbox 13. I have my original CD, and I got a little story about this one. Was sitting in a record store about 2 years ago, and I looked at it, and I'm like, oh, man, this price. I don't know about this price, but I flipped it over, and I'm like, how can I not buy this? This is number 666 out of 1,000. I'm like, and that's official. That's like black marker. I'm like, I'm buying this just because of that. But so for me, this one is a big improvement on Bloodletting. This is where they got a little more. They got a more reputable mix on this. They got Colin Richardson on this one. I have this one sitting at number 9. This is one of the best of the early 2000s that you could, if you're going to check out any Overkill, in my opinion, this one. Check out the tracks, Damned, No Lights. My favorite track on here is Crystal Clear. Great song, The Sound of Dying, Unholy, and then the last track, I Rise. So yeah, definitely. They used Colin Richardson on this one, and they never used him again until the brand new album, Scorched. So we'll mention that later down the line. But there is my number 9, Killbox 13.
Right on. Alan, Killbox 13.
All right. Yeah, another one I wasn't familiar with until the past month or so. But yeah, I would agree with Darcy. It's the best of these from the 2000 to 2010 kind of window of time. And again, it starts off, with a couple of pretty good tracks. Sorry, pulling up track list over here. I had to go feed the cat, so I'm a minute behind. But yeah, Devil by the Tail is decent. Damned is even better. So once again, they're starting the album pretty well. The song Darcy mentioned, was it Crystal
Clear?
Crystal
Yeah.
If Hattori is here, it's Crystal Pepsi. But I haven't seen Hattori in the chat tonight. Is Crystal Clear? Yeah, Crystal Clear is not bad. It's another one that's got a little bit more of that southern kind of metal vibe to it, but it works okay. Overkill can pull that off. There's another one that was a funny one that stood out to me, was No Lights. And the thing that stood out to me about it was that it has the kind of main riff in it sounds exactly like something off of the self-titled Trouble album from 1990. And it's very different sounding for Overkill. In fact, when it was playing, I had it pulled up, in YouTube, where it plays, one song at a time. And when that one came on, I actually kind of stopped what I was doing and checked, like, did this jump off of an Overkill album and onto a Trouble record or something? I was like, no,
Yeah.
I didn't. Okay, that's just a little different for them. It's not bad. It just, it stood out as something, them trying something a little bit different. So yeah, best album in this stretch since, let's see, it's going to have the highest ranking for me since Killing Kind. I still only have it ranked at 14. I still think, there's a lot of, you could do a lot better with other eras of Overkill. For a grade, I've got it about the same as Bloodletting, but a little better. So again, call it C+ or B- in that territory. These are the kinds of albums like Bloodletting and Killbox. The difference here to me is, if I found these albums used for like $5 or $6, would I pick them up? Yeah, I've got no problem with that. Necroshine or something like that, or From the Underground, if I find that used for $5, am I picking it up? Probably not. I don't feel like I need all 20 Overkill albums, and when you get below into those like bottom 5, I don't really feel the need. But even these 14 may sound like a low ranking. It's still a decent enough record that I'd pick up a cheap copy given the chance. So can't be that bad. Marty, where do you have Killbox 13, their 12th album, ranked?
Well, at this point in the week, I'm getting real tired of bad Overkill albums. Not gonna lie, it's rough. But the production on this one is a huge improvement. I own the CD. I didn't look inside of it. I previewed most of the stuff off of Spotify, but it's a definite improvement. Brighter sound. Verni's bass still not as prominent as maybe should be, but he's once again going for more of a natural bass tone. Devil by the Tail, solid opener. Majority of the album remains in that mid-pace crunch riff realm. The songs, well constructed. Say what you want. I'm not a big fan of the crunchy, groovy stuff, but the songs, nothing sounds out of place. Transitions all work. They know how to construct a song. The sad thing here is they're all interchangeable songs and lack excitement for me. The style they have adopted ever since I Hear Black just makes them sound tired and out of ideas. Makes the albums feel like they'll never end. And this isn't thrash. It's just boring. It's just boring. I'm having a hard time hearing the thrash that I love coming through this era. It's tough. But this is number 17 on my list, and that brings us to Relics 14. Came out in 2005. Relics 14. Recorded and mixed at Gear Recording Studio, October-November 2004. Co-mixed by Overkill, mastered at Masterdisc, New York City. Darcy, what did you think about Relics?
The one thing I forgot to mention on Killbox 13 was Derek Taylor, the rhythm guitar player. That was his first album. So they're back to being a 5-piece on that album. Actually, his first album that he was on was actually the one I have in the background, which is Wrecking Everything Live, which is on the Necroshine tour. No, sorry, that's not his first live. I think that was anyways. Derek Taylor. So Derek is still in the band to this day. Very solid lineup. A couple of drummer changes over the next few albums, which we'll mention that. But this is Relics 14, which is their 13th studio album. Kind of a shit cover. Not great. Even Killbox 13 wasn't a great cover either. Now this one, I have this ranked at number 19. This is, Marty, you had mentioned boring about the last album a bit. The songs kind of sounded the same. Well, this overall to me is one of the most boring albums Overkill.
They're in a fucking rut, man. It's rough.
The songs are very, very weak in here. There's a couple good tracks, but man, there's some shit on here. Like, where is it? Bats in the Belfry. I mean, it's almost, it actually annoys me. The song annoys me. Wheels, The Mark, they're just struggling for lyrics. They're struggling for everything at this point. That's why I have it at number 19. Last one to feature Tim Mallory on drums, who has been on board since I Hear Black, but not one I would point you in. If you're new to the band, I would say you need to avoid this for 5 years. Go check out the other stuff first. But yeah, and it ends with a kind of a throwback song called Old School. They got Eddie Trunk in there. They got mentioning all the shit that happened to them way back in the day, which doesn't amount to a great song anyways. It's just kind of honestly, it should be a B-side. That's what it should be. But yeah, there's my number 19, 2005's Relics 14.
All right, Alan, what are your thoughts?
About the same as Darcy's. I also have this at 19. This is going to be the first album since I Hear Black where I'm dipping it down into like the D kind of grade level. When you get down to D's, it's like, I don't even need to hear this full album. I'm going to start skipping tracks after the first listen because it's not got much going on. The past couple of albums, I pointed out, they started pretty good. They've got some, decent tracks to get the ball rolling. This one does not. This one starts off right away. It's on the wrong foot. There's one good track kind of buried right in the middle here. Track number 5, Pound of Flesh. That one's got some, piss and vinegar to it. That's the song for the album. And it seems like even these, bad Overkill albums will have at least one song on them that you could pull out. So, yep, that's the song for this one. But yeah, some of these others, you've got which one? Oh, yeah, like Old School. Yeah, the it's just like, what are you doing? That's silly in all the wrong ways. And yeah, Darcy's exactly right about Bats in the Belfry. That's such a wasted opportunity because that song title is perfect for this band. That song title is like, yeah, how did you make it 14 albums before using that for a song title? Let's hear what it sounds like. Oh my God, it sounds like Jump the Fuck Up Pimps.
Yeah, it's like Bats in the Belfry. It's just annoying.
It just, they completely blew it on that one. Yeah. So, yeah, 19th, give it a D. Don't buy it. Don't play it. don't need it. If you want to hear, if you're putting together some kind of compilation and you need one song per album, Pound of Flesh. There you go. You're done. That's all you need. Marty, do you like this one any better than Darcy and I?
It's just this whole stretch here is just like a bunch of records trying to battle for last and second to last place. And we can't do that. So, notes, sorry. I wrote them, so I'm going to read them. The sound field seems properly mixed. Everything can be heard. Guitars have a predominant mid-range tone, which gives them a recorded in a 55-gallon drum sound. Not a lot of life in the recording. Very digital sounding, especially the drum tone. Sterile even. The songs, they're all expertly written songs, meaning there's nothing out of place or awkward in regards to the transitions. The crunch riff remains the primary element in Overkill's songwriting war cabinet. It gets incredibly uninteresting very quickly, especially since it has been happening since I Hear Black. Losses the punk influence. That was kind of the core of Overkill. Very few note-based riff runs. Tempo rarely alternates from a plodding beat that does on occasion open up with double bass, except on the track A Pound of Flesh, which is a touch faster. The album ends with Old School, a slight punk vibe, but the song is really weak. This is another snooze fest album. Bah! But I own it. Collector scum. Which brings us to 2007's Immortalis, which I need to queue up here real quick. It's all the
Marty,
same.
where did you technically rank?
Oh, sorry. Number 16. Number 16. Immortalis. Additional notes. Produced by Overkill. Recorded and mixed at Gear Recording Studio, Shrewsbury, New Jersey, October, December 2006. Made in June 2007. Additional recording at Crystal Studio, mixed at Master Disc, New York City. So here we go. Immortalis. For those keeping score, that's the cover. A little bit better cover.
Yeah, Travis Smith.
Yeah, he actually kept it simple and didn't do a bunch of stupid shit on this one. Darcy, what are your thoughts on Immortalis?
Yeah, so Travis Smith artwork there. So for those keeping track, that is Immortal 15. So that is their 14th studio album. So that's kind of a made-up word, Immortalis. Only album on Bodog Music. And those of you that are big Overkill fans, this is finally getting a vinyl reissue through Church of Vinyl, licensed through Nuclear Blast, to own the rights to this album. So anyways, Church of Vinyl have licensed that, and I think the reissue is hitting August 15th or something like that. So if you are interested, the only vinyl that's ever come out for this one, I think, is a picture disc. So as far as me liking this album, well, this is my number 20. This is my bottom of the barrel for Overkill. There's just not a lot that jumps out on me here. There is a guest on this song on the track Skull and Bones, Randall Blythe from Lamb of God, which I am not a fan of that band. No offense to anybody that is a fan. I am not. I actually can't stand his vocals, but anyways, that's for another day, I guess. But there just isn't much on this album to be notable. Devil in the Mist isn't bad. Shadow of a Doubt, Walk Through Fire. And this one has currently the last installment of the Overkill. This one is Overkill 5. It's called The Brand, and would be my least favorite out of the 5 songs so far. But yeah, not much stands out. That's why I have this one at number 20.
Okay. Alan.
Yeah, this one's pretty rough. This was one where I peeked back in on Overkill. Like I said, I'd skipped a few albums after Necroshine, and then around when this came out in 2007, somebody had recommended it to me. So I was like, "Oh yeah, this one's great. You should check it out. They've got it back online." I was like, "Okay, I'll give it a listen," and I did, and just like, note to self: ignore everything that person ever says to me because they don't know what the fuck they're talking about.
Kill that friend.
Well, I mean, don't have to kill that friend, but over time you kind of learn certain people's opinions you put a lot more stock in than other people's. You read enough reviews by the same person, you start to realize, like, I am on pretty much a very similar wavelength to this person. If they've got something touted really high, there's a good chance I'll like it. And if they say something's pretty bad, yeah, there's a good chance I won't like it. Marty, you were very much one of those people back when you wrote for Warm Gear and Maniacs. I learned reading your reviews, if this Worm fella says it's good, I should keep that in the back of my mind. I will probably like it because I
tricked you.
No, I learned that you and I had very similar taste.
Yeah.
Same with Jeff Wagner. If Jeff talked it up as being really good, yeah, there was a good chance I was going to enjoy it as well. Yeah, whoever it was that told me Immortalis was good, I quickly learned that, I'm not taking your recommendations anymore. Once again, I've got it ranked, what do we got here? 18. And again, giving it I'll give it maybe a D+ this time. There's a few songs here that are okay. Like Darcy said, Devil in the Mist is all right. Walk Through Fire, Hellish Pride. These songs at least do have a little bit of anger and energy and fire to them. They are not full-on classics at all, but they're a cut above a lot of the very, very boring stuff that has been happening on a lot of albums. So there's at least a few songs here where it seems like they kind of pop to life a little bit, but that's only 3 songs out of 10. So that's not a good ratio whatsoever. And yes, absolutely agree with Darcy. Overkill Part 5 says oh, that's a sad way to end the series. Maybe they'll do a Part 6 one day and kind of give that a better send off. But yeah, so I peeked back in on what Overkill was doing, saw what they were doing. I quickly closed that door and wandered off again, and didn't check back in for a while, which, as we're going to find out in a few minutes, I came back one album too early. So yeah, rank 18. Don't need it. Don't want it. Don't like it.
Yep. This album for me. The production sounds nearly exact to Relics. Put them on back to back, they sound like the same. Like they should have a 2 CD set. Guitars are too mid-rangey and tend to step on the bass frequencies. Devils in the Mist starts off the album with a bit of fire and double bass fury. Though they anchor to groovy crunch riffs, there are tracks like Skull and Bones that go into atypical directions to add some much-needed dynamics. Then a track like Head On is a southern drawl in the riff work that could have been on a Pantera record. Overkill 5 ends the album with some adventurous structure and sharp riffing, even some tremolo speed picking. Good song. Wish there were more like it on the album. So yeah, for me, number 15. Number 15. Again, we're spinning around the same. But things are about to change. Hallelujah. Praise Charlie. Where is it? Ironbound. We've got this album here, 2010. This was recorded at Studio Abyss. Produced by Overkill. Mixed at Studio Abyss. I'm sorry. Recorded at Gear Recording Studio, Shrewsbury, New Jersey. Additional recording at J-Rod Productions. And additional recording at SKH Recording Studios, Stuart, Florida. So they shipped this off to the Tagrin house to get a much-needed shine put on it. And it shows. Darcy, what do you think on 2010's Ironbound? This is a 3-year gap. Another 3-year gap.
Yeah, mixed by Peter Tangren. And if you guys are keeping score at home, you know that I have not used my number 5 yet. I saved it for this.
Okay.
There's my number 5. This is, if any of you guys watch sports, the old turning point in a game.
Yep.
This was huge. You almost can't believe if you listen to Relics and Immortalis that this came out of them. Like it's where the lineup with Taylor and Lintz really came together. Songwriting strong. You know, I know DD handles a lot of the songwriting, and lyrically, that's Bobby's thing. But man, this one, it all came together here. And yeah, well, I won't give too much away about the future, but yeah, this is definitely my number 5. The green and the black, it starts off like, you know what? It kind of brought me back to when I listened to Coma for the first time. I was like, yes, finally. Fuck. And then the title track, Ironbound, is fantastic.
Great.
Bring Me the Night is another killer track.
Banger.
And I guess let's give you one of my deep tracks that I like, The Head and the Heart. That is a great track too. But yeah, Peter Tangren, this is an original pressing on Nuclear Blast, which at that point, their distribution in North America was by E1 and Nuclear Blast all over the rest of the world. That's since changed. They're just exclusively Nuclear Blast now, but there's my number 5, Ironbound.
Alan.
So yeah, there's this thing. It's known as the standard Nuclear Blast Records veteran thrash band contract. You know, if you started your band in the 80s and you hit some tough times in the 90s and you couldn't quite get things back in gear in the early 2000s, Nuclear Blast, you know, they'll send out a very nice gentleman, you know, wearing a sports coat and jeans to wherever you're at. He'll have a briefcase and he'll hand you some paperwork, and it, you know, basically parses as follows. You know, if you will please stop fucking around making records that nobody's really interested in, and just go back to what you used to do and do that again, we will put you on a real label with real distribution, and you can be a real boy again. And we have seen a lot of bands, let's face it, when you think about it, a lot of bands have taken this. Yeah. Testament is the poster child for this. Yeah. Absolutely. But Overkill probably should be right there side by side with them. And there's plenty of other examples too. We could talk about Creator and many, many others have gone down that trail with Nuclear Blast. So yeah, they go dig them out of the, whatever, rinky-dink, dive they're playing in, dust them off, give them a new coat of green paint, make them sit down and listen to Taking Over about 5 or 6 times back to back to back to back to back. Kind of like, here, get them back in the right mindset.
Remember this?
Remember? Here, you can do this. We have the proof. Check it out. Let's kind of refocus on that. Now go do that. Go record that for us again and take it from there. And Ian's on the same page as me as usual. Absolutely. So yeah, they do what they're supposed to do. They go back to basics. They play, speedy thrash metal once again. They quickly start leaving a lot of the groove stuff in the dust. Not completely. It creeps in a little here and there, but
little groove is not a problem.
No, yeah, you're right. You're right. A little bit here and there, it's not a problem.
And it's part of Overkill.
They're good enough at it that they can pull that off from time to time, so it's okay. But yes, the focus is completely been redirected here. All of this said, I get why this album is heralded as the return and really championed and all that. That said, for my money, the album's just a wee bit overrated. And it's not a bad album. I've got it ranked, here at 9, and I've got it like right on that dividing line between B and B+. And that's a really important line in my own little internal grading system. And I'll explain why here in a minute. But what have you got here? Starts with The Green and the Black. Good song. Tells you kind of right away that they're going to try to get back to form. It's, one of these odes to the fans for sticking with this kind of tracks. It's all feel-good vibes all the way. We're playing thrash, speedy thrash. We're talking about the core colors. We're talking about you, the hardcore fans. Yeah, it's like, apple pie and kittens and flags. What's not to like? There is the fact that it takes 8 minutes and change to get through. It's like, this would be a great song, but why is it so bloody long? It didn't need to be that long. Okay. Kind of the same thing with Ironbound, good follow-up track, strong track, but it kind of it's got this, slower bridge in the middle. It's just like, did that need to be there? I don't think this needs to be here. This is like adding 90 seconds to the song for no real gain. Why is it here? There's little things like that in a bunch of the songs where you kind of get the sense that, they're Ironbound, but they are maybe just a little bit rusty when it comes to really nailing their old school stuff. Because let's face it, it's been a while since they've, tried something like this. There are plenty of, hits. You already mentioned, Bring Me the Night. That's right there. 4 minutes and a little bit of change, and it just smokes. There you go. You don't need the song to be 8 minutes long to, nail it in 4. That's much, much better. There's plenty of other, Give a Little, Endless War, lots of them work, fine here. But it's just that, there's these little, it's little things. It's, the devil in the details where I feel like, it's a very good album, but it's got, they're working a few kinks out still. They're gotta get back used to this style. And that's where it kind of comes in at that B plus line. That line in my head means this. If something's a B plus, to me, that is a very good album, and I want it on my shelf. I'm going to revisit it regularly enough that it merits owning it. If something's a B in my inner universe, it means that's a good album, but I am not likely to play it that much. If I don't pick it up, I'm probably not going to miss it. If I need to hear it every now and then, I can pull it up on YouTube or whatever. And Ironbound is right there on that line for me. It's just like, it's really close to being good enough to, earn all those accolades. But at the same time, I really wonder how much I would play it if I owned it. In my head, there's a good chance this is one of those albums that there's just enough other Overkill albums that I like better that if I got a copy of this, it would just sit here and collect dust. And again, it very much feels like a lot of the Modern Testament albums, and it's that NBA nuclear blast contract thing. You are going to sit here and start cranking out very good but safe albums that harken to what you used to do, but never really surpass it. And I just don't know how many of those I need from a band. I get them. And a lot of times I don't play them enough to really justify the money and the, amount of space they take up. So that's kind of where I'm at on Ironbound. It's a good record. It's potentially a very good record, but it's a safe record. They are doing the safe thing. They've taken the safe contract deal, and they could tighten it up a little bit. And spoiler alert, they do on my list, but we got to get there. So I've got this at 9. I guess that's about all I can say about it. I'll shut up and let Marty have a turn.
Millington Design, it's your first time in the chat. Welcome. Good to see you. I love this record. I rank this at number 5. And this week, going through the 9 album slog that I really struggled with, is the album better because the albums before it are so bad? I don't know, but all I know is I think this album rules. It's Overkill back on track. Sharp guitar tone. This sounds like Overkill. Life here sonically definitely impacts the power punch in the tracks. Verni's bass is clanging, metallic sounding, and not right up front. Drums sound real on this album. Riffs are exciting. Blitz sinister snarl holds court over the well-crafted and urgent sounding thrash. Thrash. We can say thrash on this record. This sounds like a thrash record to me. Mm-hmm. The albums leading up to it. And I want to say that, the groovy stuff that they've been doing leading up to this record. I mean, obviously it's something they wanted to do. So to put out, obviously they have this music in them. They've done it before. and they like, like Alan comically puts up the nuclear blast thrash, quit screwing around and we'll sign you. Okay, well, I guess now I have to give up on my dream of writing cool, groovy, Pantera riffs. I mean, obviously it was a thing. I don't know if Verni's writing all this music. Obviously this groove stuff was in his head. This is what he wanted to do. But putting it back on track with this record was what needed to happen. The other stuff was just tired, worn out Overkill. This is Overkill revitalized. The Green, the Black, Ironbound, Bring Me the Night, Give a Little, the whole album. Hard-hitting thrash, feels refreshed to me. Even at almost 60 minutes long, this one doesn't feel long. It's a great album. Number 5. I have no complaints with that. That brings us to the Electric Age. I have a weird double set. It comes with a tour live CD.
I got that one. I got that too.
Came out 2012. It's 50 minutes, 27 seconds long. Let me go to recording information real quick. It's probably the same stuff because they don't seem to differentiate. Additional notes: produced by Overkill, recorded Gear Recording Studio, Shrewsbury, New Jersey, September through January 2011, 2012. Additional recording at J-Rod Productions. Additional recording at SKH Recording Studio, Stuart, Florida. Darcy, what are your thoughts on the Electric Age?
Well, I'm gonna show you guys this cool promo preview from the Rock Hard first. So, have you ever seen this cover before?
No, haven't.
All right, so this is a 6-song kind of what it has on here is the Electric Rattlesnake, Wish You Were Dead, and Give a Little. Is that on this album?
Yeah.
There's 2 tracks from the Electric Age.
Oh.
Then there's Give a Little and Bring Me the Night, which were recorded live at Rock Hard. And they also did 2 early tracks on here that have never seen an album, and that is Death Rider and The Beast Within. Now, if you've never heard these 2 Overkill tracks, they're phenomenal. I wish they would redo them on an album. The Beast Within is awesome, but yeah, this is a kind of a unique, I don't know how rare it is, but this is the little thing that came out pre. This is basically just a blown up cover of this.
Yep. Darcy, a quick question. Death Rider was on Metal Massacre 5, but what's the other song, Beast?
The Beast Within. We'd have to really look that one up because I don't know where that one appeared. The Beast Within is just a fantastic song. It's one of my favorite Overkill songs, period.
I'm drawing a blank on that one. If anybody in the chat knows what it's from, please go ahead and post and we'll put it up on screen.
Really good. Folks. So back to this. This is the Electric Age 2012, so 2 years after Ironbound. 16th studio album. So they jumped over. The one thing about Overkill, and I do defend Overkill. I don't think they made many super samey albums. Part of their thing was they do a lot of production themselves, but they always get somebody different to mix their albums. On this one is Greg Reilly. So the last one was Peter Tangren. This one, a bit of a step down from Ironbound, in my opinion. This one, I had Ironbound at number 5. I have the Electric Age at number 11, but only because I'm running out of spots to actually put them, because this is a pretty good album overall. One of my favorite Overkill tracks, Electric Rattlesnake. Love that track. Opening track, Come and Get It, is awesome. Wish You Were Dead is great too. And another, I guess, deep track, we'll call it, Old Wounds, New Scars. Love that track too. So there is my number 11, The Electric Age.
Very cool. And yes, big thanks to Ilkus for pointing out Beast Within is originally from the Power in Black demo, which, I haven't heard the demo stuff in forever. So
I've got a CDR of that stuff. I haven't listened to that in ages. Yeah.
Same here. Yep.
The one that I showed you, they actually played it live in 2011. So it really sounds awesome.
That's cool. Very cool. Yeah, I had never seen that item before. Very nice. So, okay, let's see. We're on the Electric Age. For me, this is the album where everything clicks back into place completely. Yeah, again, Ironbound was good, but for me, the Electric Age is very good. Comes, right out of the gate really well with Come and Get It. Yeah, Electric Rattlesnake's pretty good. It does still have that kind of weird bridge to it, much like the Ironbound track on the second track on the previous album, which it's like, why you guys keep putting these weird, different sections and these interludes almost in the middle of the songs? Just yank that out. You don't need that whatsoever. But yeah, Wish You Were Dead is great. Drop the Hammer Down, someone mentioned in the chat a minute ago. Yep, that one's really strong. There's just a lot of energy on this album, a lot of passion. Oh yeah, another thing to mention, Come and Get It. It's one of the first times again since Bastard Nation they kind of go for a little bit more of that anthemic vibe. And once again, they do it very well. It's not a trick they've played very often, but yeah, they can pull that off. Old Wounds, New Scars is a fun tune. That's the one we mentioned much earlier tonight that has the line, got a lot of mouth for a Jersey white boy in it, which is right up there with size 11 waffle when it comes to just, fantastic tongue-in-cheek lyrics from Bobby. And that's something I should comment on. I haven't said a lot about Blitz. I've always loved his voice. Very unique. Oh, yeah. Very, very. 3 words and it's him.
Oh yeah,
absolutely.
No one sounds like him.
No one sounds like him at all. It's always been, just a personal favorite among heavy metal vocalists. In high school, I had to give a speech before the entire school, and it was supposed to be one of these things where you're supposed to quote all these famous poets and philosophers, and try to work all this bullshit into it. I ended up pulling multiple quotes out of Bobby's lyrics on the early Overkill albums, and just quoted him as the late 20th century poet Robert Ellsworth. And there were like 3 kids who got it and thought it was the best thing ever, and the rest of them just like, oh well, yeah, that's I'm not familiar with his work. And it's like, oh, he's relatively minor. I came across. So yes, thanks Bobby for helping me get my homework done back in high school. But yeah, Electric Age, I really like this album.
It's a good album.
I've got it ranked as number 6. It's the highest slot I've got left, and I'm giving it to Electric Age. Solid B+. This one will go on my shelf. I came close to ordering a copy of it the other day, but kind of being good, not ordering stuff right now.
I've been good too lately too. It's kind of weird. I'm feeling pretty okay with it. Anyway.
Yeah. Midsummer is usually a time where I'm not picking up much stuff. There's usually a lull right here. But yeah, great album. This one I really, really like. I think, they're shoring up a few of those little things that didn't quite click for me on Ironbound. Again, Ironbound's good. It's just like this one I think is a step up from that. I'll give it a B+, rank it number 6, and now I will stop talking. Tonight I seem to have a lot of mouth for a southern white boy, and I'll let Marty have a turn.
People are talking, like Ben says, he hasn't lost his voice either. Quite impressed when I saw them back in May. And there's something like the same with Blaine from The Accused. Like, how does he sing like that? How does he do this all these years and still sound great? You listen to these guys talk, listen to Blitz talk.
Yeah. His
speaking voice sounds like his singing voice. So those are the guys that are probably going to go the distance with their vocals because they're just accentuating their speaking voice, probably with very little exertion. They're like Brian Johnson. You listen to some of that Geordie stuff that he did before he joined AC/DC. He doesn't sing like he sings in AC/DC. I've heard of that Geordie stuff, I'm like, this is Brian Johnson.
Doesn't even sound like him.
Doesn't sound like he's actually singing. And then you hear him in AC/DC. He's trying to emulate Bon Scott, which he could do for a lot of years. Now he's paying the consequences. He's been singing outside of his range. Same with Axl Rose. All these people that take their voice to an area that is not comfortable or natural for them. Blitz, he sings like he speaks. You hear him talking, he sounds just like his. So, I mean, that's always going to bode well for longevity, which thankfully after all these albums. He still sounds fucking great. And he's great live. Awesome front man. All of it. Electric Age. The guitars are nice and sharp in tone. Bass isn't as predominant, but still poking through the mix. Drums sound very thin and digital on this record. One of my main complaints about the record. It's minor, but it's like you listen to it, especially on headphones, it's like, wow, could they make those sound any more fake? The overall attack of the album, though, is bright and vibrant. Excellent sound. Come and Get It starts the album off with a ripper. Great solo section. Blitz is on fire. Electric Rattlesnake is a touch bluesy, but still a fun song. Wish You Were Dead. Drop the Hammer Down. All Over But the Shouting. And Good Night. All excellent Overkill songs. This is a great record. And I'm dropping it in at number 7. I'm filling in holes at this point. These are all... The thing that's you can applaud Overkill for here is the fact that they're so deep in their career at this point.
Yeah.
And they're they got their mojo back. They dropped the bullshit. You know, is it as classic as The Years of Decay or Feel the Fire? No, of course not. No band is going to put out a record this late in their career as good as, you know, Testament's not going to put out another The Legacy. Although The Formation of Damnation, I thought that was a great comeback record. But, you know, bands like this, they're never going to be as good as they were when they were younger. But Overkill's really doing a good job at rekindling that spirit. They shook off the groovy shit. They're actually writing good albums, not just good songs. There was good songs on all these records coming up to where we're at now. They're writing good albums again, which is very important. It's very important and key, and it's to be applauded that they've righted the ship and they're back on track. Which brings us to this was done. What year is this? 2014's White Devil Armory. Yeah, I'm not even going to read the. It's all the same. They keep recording in the same places. So there you go. White Devil Armory 2014. Darcy, what do you think about this one?
Yep, same lineup too. They still had Ron Lipnicki came on drums. Actually, came on Immortalis, and yeah, this is his second last album. So 2014's White Devil Armory. And like clockwork, 2 years, you can just set your watch to, you know, pretty much 2 years, you're going to get an Overkill album.
Yep.
This one's a bit of a continuation of the Electric Age, in my opinion.
Yep.
Another one produced or mixed by Greg Reilly. Just not as strong as the Electric Age. Just not enough standout tracks, but still a good album. It's got some really good, solid Overkill material. I have this one sitting at number 14.
Thanks, Glenn. You rule. You didn't have to do that.
Thank you, Glenn.
That's awesome. Armorist. I love the track Armorist. It's heavy. Great. It kicks your ass. It comes out of that weird intro, that XDM or whatever. But there's other tracks on here that don't really do a lot for me, like Pig or Down to the Bone. They're just okay. What else could I point out? King of the Rat Bastards, pretty good. But my deep track on here would be It's All Yours. Overall, a good Overkill album, just not quite at the level that the Electric Age or Ironbound is, but still decent. Number 14.
All right, Alan.
Yeah, I'd agree with pretty much everything Darcy said there. Very solid album, start to finish. Good track list. It feels like it's, you know, just for me, it comes in between Electric Age and Ironbound. I had Electric Age at 6. I want to put this one at number 8, and I had Ironbound at number 9. So yeah, now see, we're in the middle of a 3-album run where everything's, you know, pretty good. With White Devil Armory, like Ironbound, it's another one I've kind of got right on that B+ line. It's like, you know, this is a very good album. It's consistent. It's solid start to finish. It's got kind of a nice old school vibe to it, even more so than the previous 2 albums. I'm just not convinced that I'll revisit it all that often. It's because it's one of those, it's like, well, it's another good Overkill album, but we've kind of hit critical mass of good Overkill albums. So it's like, if I go out and order it, I want to play it once or twice when I get it, and then it's going to go on the shelf. And how thick is the dust going to be on the top of that CD case the next time I pull it off the shelf? I don't know. Not because there's anything bad about it, just because, again, they're in that nuclear blast contract. You will make good but safe albums. You will kind of do very similar things on each album. They'll each have maybe their own little quirks, but there's not going to be a lot of variations. And yeah, I can only play so many albums a day, and I can only play so many albums a week. And when you start having a lot of these albums that are good, but just not quite, top tier good, those are the albums that for me that really just sit around and collect dust sometimes. So this to me is a very good album that just might not be quite good enough to get a lot of consistent replay. Time will tell. Because this is one I had not heard before we started this project with Darcy. But I like it. I just don't know if I like it enough for it to get into rotation over and over. So number 8 for me, B, maybe B+.
All right.
Pretty good score.
I mean, B+ for an album, for a band this deep in their career, that's fucking great, dude. It really is.
Yeah. No, it is. Again, and I'm not trying to shit on them whatsoever. It's just that, we are into a catalog where there's at least 7 albums I like better than it. How often do you go to the CD rack and think, I want to hear my 8th favorite album by a certain band?
Yeah.
That's the quandary I get into with this kind of album.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
But Marty, your thoughts on it, please.
All right. Not a whole lot to say. Great production on this one. Tight and modern. Lets the excellent Overkill elements shine and explode. Armorist is a pummeling lead-off track, probably my favorite on the album. Catchy and full of punchy double bass antics. Where there's smoke, pig, freedom, rings. Many bangers on this album. All tracks solid, making this another very worthy thrash album. Again, it's good to say Overkill's thrash again. It is, because we had a rough, musty period there where it wasn't really thrash. And that leads us to, number 8. It's my number 8th in the ranking.
Okay.
Which brings us to The Grinding Wheel. Came out in 2017. And this is what it looks like.
Mm-hmm.
Darcy, what are your thoughts on The Grinding Wheel?
Another solid Overkill album.
This is, by the way, is their longest album. It's over an hour long. It's an hour, 12 seconds. Crazy. Anyway.
I don't know if I knew that. I mean, are you including the bonus track though, Emerald?
Oh, I don't know. I just went on what was
they got a Thin Lizzy cover to end this thing, so that's really kind of not really part of the album, but
right. It's on my copy. But
whatever, it's still 57 minutes. It's still a long one. So this one took a while to come out. This is another 3-year gap. This was really supposed to come out November, December of 2016, and it got pushed back. First time they used Andy Sneap mixing. And I don't think Sneap did exactly what maybe Overkill thought he would do for them. This one is, how do I going to describe this one? It's a little more slowed down. This is a slower album than Ironbound. It's slower than Electric Age, and it's slower than White Devil Armory. I have this one sitting at number 13. And what I mean about slower, just it's got actually a bit of a more of a doomy vibe, slightly, not super doomy, but I don't know. Standouts on here for me would be Mean Green Killing Machine is a good song. Goddamn Trouble, not a great track. Our Finest Hour, which was the first single on it, it's really good, but the solo on it is, if you listen to that solo on Our Finest Hour, it's not a great solo. And then Bobby's vocals just kind of get lost at the end. He's just singing over something that it just doesn't fit. If I'm describing that in any way, but some standouts on here. I love the song Let's All Go to Hades, which is kind of got a little bit of punky vibe in it for sure. come heavy, and then the doomy things I'm talking about are the wheel and then the grinding wheel, which wraps up this album. And Alan was talking about Robert Ellsworth. There's one on here where he says, I forget which track. I'll take the high road, you take the psychopath. I always love that. So that's on here. I think it's on the wheel. I think the wheel or the grinding wheel, that lyric is on. But there is my number 13, the grinding wheel.
And to the Metal Archive says that even without the Emerald Thin Lizzy cover, it's still an hour and 12 seconds. So
yeah,
the bonus track on here puts it over the hour mark for sure.
So one of their longest, right?
Definitely, it is their longest for sure. All right, Alan, your thoughts on the grinding wheel?
Yeah, this one feels a bit longer. It's not bad. But for me, it doesn't measure up to the 3 albums that have come before it. It's kind of a step down, and part of that is just the length. I agree. I think it was Alex said just a minute ago. It's not a little thing, but the fact that you're ending the album with a song called "The Wheel," followed by "The Grinding Wheel," I'm like, wait, what? I literally thought, is one of these supposed to be just like an intro to the other? No, they're 2 separate songs. You couldn't come up with different titles or at least separate them in the track list or something a little bit. You're having the wheel followed by the grinding wheel. That's just lazy. That's somebody not paying attention at quality control. We can do better than that. The Emerald thing, bonus track or not, it seems to be on a lot of versions. That's not the right song for Overkill to be covering. Sorry. The original is a classic. Overkill can do good covers. We've established that with Sonic Reducer and Frankenstein. Emerald's not the song I want to hear Overkill trying to perform.
And really, we didn't cover it, but they did a covers album, and I kind of previewed it. I skipped through. They're not. Some of the covers just aren't good. It doesn't.
I've never heard.
Does not translate well to Overkill. They're not Metallica. I mean, they have some moments where they can pull off a cover, but Metallica's a good cover band. Overkill. It's a little hit or miss for me.
Yeah.
Anyway.
I haven't heard that, so I don't know.
It's no Sonic Reducer, that's for sure.
No,
it just isn't. So yeah, while this album's, there's nothing wrong with it, and again, the y'all have mentioned some of the Mean Green Killing Machines, like I think the track for sure. I don't mind Goddamn Trouble as a follow up, but yeah, and you kind of work through the rest of it, and this is very much where I'm starting to get that sense of, is like, all right, this is your 4th album for Nuclear Blast, and it's starting to feel a little bit cookie cutter ish. You're gonna keep playing it very, very safe because your contract requires it. The album's just a little too long. It's not doing anything wrong, but it's not doing anything particularly interesting either. By Overkill standards, they're still doing thrash again, and that's great. But they've been doing that for a while now. And that's kind of the thing too. Ironbound, I think a lot of the hype for Ironbound, it's not just that it's a good record, it's that it's the first good record in so long. Oh God, thank you so much. With something like Grinding Wheel, it's like, this is like the 4th album in a row that they've just been doing the same thing. And we've seen this pattern, like when we talked about, the Destruction catalog, and when we covered the Testament catalog, they have that album like Formation and Damnation that comes back, or the Antichrist, and they would come back and it's just like, and everybody loves it. 4 albums later, they're doing essentially the same thing, but folks are kind of mid on it because it's just like, well, now everyone just kind of expects.
Did you just drop a younger generation? Wow, you're throwing out the slang and the hip words tonight, my friend. Anyway, go ahead. Mid.
I'm all over the place tonight. I'm full of Red Bull, Gatorade, and beer at the same time. But so and that's kind of the problem here. This sounds perfectly fine, but they've done the last 4 albums have been fine or better, so it's getting harder to impress, I think, when you're in a streak like this. So I ended up
Alan has the Riz.
I either resent that or thank you very much. I'm not sure which.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I ended up putting this one at 12, and yeah, kind of because there wasn't anywhere else to put it, I gave it like a C plus, B minus, where it's like it's better than average, but it's not doing enough to really impress me and make me think, wow, yeah, this is an album I got to revisit over and over. So it's an okay Overkill album. There's nothing wrong with it, but it's not in the top half of the catalog for me. Marty, your thoughts, please.
All right. Well, in an hour and 12 seconds, this one doesn't need to be an hour long. It just doesn't. It's still a solid record, just a bit too ambitious. I forgot to flip me around here. Do this. Too many buttons to push. Good mix and sound, but there's a muddy overall feel to the album. Is it mastered weirdly? I don't know what it is. It sounds a little bit muffled compared to the other albums before it. Tracks Goddamn Trouble, Mean, Green Killing Machine, Our Finest Hour, Red and White and Blue. All solid thrashers. Tracks like Come Heavy, and Let's All Go to Hades could have been removed for a more streamlined experience. They could have done a little bit more self-editing on this one. Still a decent record. And Nuclear Blast pulled out some of the... Notice how usually these there's like white. The Nuclear Blast actually flooded the inside with the same image. So there's seamless art. So there's some money spent on the CD. I don't know. I'm sure the vinyl is equally nice, but this is a decent record. It's just too freaking long. They could have cut a couple tracks and it would have been fine. For me, this is number 11. Which brings us to 2019. We're right in the home stretch with Wings of War.
Wings of War.
What do you think about Wings of War, Darcy?
Okay. There was a lineup change too that we didn't mention.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
The grinding wheel. The drums were recorded by Ron Lipnicki, but it was his last album. He left the band, tired of touring, things like that. And then what happened after the grinding wheel? They went and recorded this double live album, Live Overhousing.
That rules. Anybody as an Overkill fan, get the ones with the Blu-ray or the DVD.
Yeah,
the concerts are fucking great. Recorded great, sound great.
Part of the Blu-rays are phenomenal.
Yep.
But anyways, they had their good friend Eddie Garcia from Pissing Razors fill in on drums for this, and he did a great job. I mean, like not easy to learn, 22 different songs. And anyways, he did a great job. So at the tail end of, or right after that, Jason Bittner, he jumped ship from Flotsam and Jetsam because he only did one album with Flotsam and Jetsam. That's what's their self-titled from 2016, great album, and he joined Overkill. So that now they've had a solid lineup here for 2 albums again. Jason Bittner on drums, and he is a phenomenal drummer, and I really think he injected even some more life into this band. I have this quite high. This is my number 8. One of the best Overkill leadoff tracks, Last Man Standing. That one just gives me the chills. Love that song. Another favorite of mine on here is Head of a Pin. Just Blitz's vocals. He's like, hey there, Mr. Pilot, fly me to the hill, teach me how to riot, teach me how to kill. It's just phenomenal song. A couple other tracks that stick out for sure would be Believe in the Fight. And there's a kind of like on the grinding wheel, there's a song called Let's All Go to Hades. Kind of the lighthearted song on this album is Welcome to the Garden State, which is, a tribute to home and Overkill, which they call New Jersey home. And that's kind of where that is. And my deep track, Hole in My Soul, the last track, phenomenal track too. So yeah, always like this since the day it came out. 2019's Wings of War, my number 8.
All right, Alan, Wings of War.
Yeah, this one I actually probably know the least about. He got the least amount of attention over the past several weeks. Not for any particular reason. It's not bad or anything. few spins and just nothing really grabbed me other than, yes, the excellent opening track, Last Man Standing. That one's fantastic, like Darcy said. And Welcome to the Garden State, being full of all these, very kind of silly, stereotypical Jersey lyrics, which is kind of fun. Okay, you can have your one fun song per album. I won't gripe about it too much. As like I said, you can have one. If you have two, now then we got to sit down and have the talk.
At least they left the groupies behind.
Again, they can even do one groupie song, but just don't do two on the same album. If they had a second, if they also had some song about like farting around in the Bronx or something on here, that'd be two goofy songs. That'd be one too many. Then we gotta go back
farting around the Bronx on Alan's solo album coming out in 2025. Everybody.
It's sure better than Old School, though. I'll tell you that.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. No, Old School didn't work on any level whatsoever. But this one, you got your one goofy fun song, and okay, you take it for what it is. So yeah, this ended up at number 13 on my list. It's an above average Overkill album. Again, I just feel like here we are on album number 5 in that Nuclear Blast contract. Thou shalt keep cranking out the same safe material, and thou shalt not deviate from the path. Although I will say this one, the one thing I guess that did stick in my head about Wings of War, this one didn't sound quite as like old school or nostalgic as maybe the last couple of albums had. This one, I don't know if it's that it's just got something different in the production, but
yeah,
it feels a little bit more modern, not in a bad way. Not that they're trying to sound like Lamb of God or something like that. It just it doesn't have quite the same overall vibe to it. And again, it's not a good or bad thing. It's just a different thing.
Yeah.
So yeah, this is one bottom line I would probably need to spend some more time with, and it might shift up or down. It just, with 20 albums, something was going to get strawed a little bit. Wings of War is one that, just didn't get as many spins as I might need, but it ended up at 13. Another safe Nuclear Blast. We're back on track kind of album. That's my take on it.
Alan, that the mix too was done by, they worked with Chris Zeus Harris on that one, which is the only time they've worked with him. So
okay,
they change it up. They definitely change it up with the mixing. So that might be that what you're noticing. I'm not sure.
Could
More
be
modern, that modern thing you mentioned. Yeah.
Yep, that might be it. Thanks for pointing that out, Darcy.
All righty then. Where did you rank that one?
I have that one at 13, so one step below the grinding wheel.
All right. Let's get into Wings of War. Similar production to the grinding wheel, but a better, less muddy mastering job.
Yeah.
Last Man Standing, Believe in the Fight, Head of a Pin is a catchy and bluesy track. Batshit Crazy and Welcome to the Garden State with its punk attitude. All great songs, and there's many more on the album. I think it's solid. This, they've got, whether it's playing it safe or not, they're playing it overkill. They're finally back to them. And is it their best album? No, but I bought it. I enjoyed it. I haven't spun it a ton, but when I put it on, I'm like, hell yeah, this is what I want to hear from this band. So, which leads us to the only.
But where did you rank it, Marty?
Oh shit, sorry, number 9. Number nine. Which leads us to the latest album and the only one I don't own yet. I'll get it eventually. Scorched 2023 came out last year. Darcy, what'd you think of Scorched?
Yeah. Well, it fell right in the middle of the pack for me. It's a great album. Number 10, Scorched.
Mine too. We cheat off each other's paper a lot tonight. It's funny.
It's actually my number 10 as well.
Oh, wow.
Oh, wow. Okay, cool. What a way to end it. Hey, and like Alan said, to hit 20 studio albums, that's pretty cool. But what I love about this album, and I watched a lot of interviews with Bobby, he basically stripped it. He wrote this album, he scrapped it all. He scrapped all his lyrics. He went back. how many years? This is a 4-year gap. This is one of the longest times we had to wait for an Overkill
Yep.
album,
It
actually.
is. Yep.
And, you know, of course, COVID had a factor for sure. And
Oh yeah.
they had time on their hands, so they did what they had to do. But there is some really unique stuff on this album that I love. So, and you got to go all the way back to Killbox 13 when they worked with Colin Richardson. So Colin Richardson is back. And what you will see is a less clinical production on here. There's more of a, I don't know, almost an analog feel on this. The production is way, it's just not as thick and processed. I love the production, especially on a song like The Surgeon. When it starts off with that drum sound and into the track, great track, by the way. Hey, the leadoff track, Scorched. I mean, that one really threw me for a loop to begin with. It's like, who the hell is this? Eddie Van Halen? And then, you know, right into Scorched. The Surgeon, great track. Twist of the Wick, another standout. Fever, very cool track. It has even like an Ozzy Osbourne vibe vocal on there. Blitz does a great job. The last 3 tracks are okay, but the first 7 tracks on here are just awesome. I Won't Be Coming Back, another one that stands out. But yeah, I got this one right in the middle at number 10. Great album. I still think Overkill's got 2 or 3 more left in them for sure. A little more gas in the tank. They might even surpass Motorhead in albums. I don't know, but yeah, there we go.
All right, Alan, 2023, Scorched.
Yeah. Not a ton to say on this one. I ranked it at 10, so a little higher than the past 2 albums. Just felt like it clicked a little faster, but not as high as the first 3 that they've done during their Nuclear Blast era. So it's another one that's very much in that kind of B category. Good album, nothing to complain about. It's solid. We're 6 albums in, and there's 9 albums I like better than it. I don't know how many times I'm going to revisit Scorched, even though it's a perfectly fine album. There's 9 other Overkill albums I like more that I'm probably going to revisit before it. So, and that's always, the curse, for these bands when they get into these long discographies. They've got a lot of good albums, but you can only play so many of them so often. And before things start slipping through the cracks. But no, it's a very solid album. It got a lot of praise when it came out, and deservedly so. I've got nothing really bad to say about it, except that it's not good enough to really, crack into, any further into that top 10. What am I going to... How does it move any higher? I mean, we've got Ironbound higher than it, Electric Age, White Devil Armory. Yeah, the very classic early stuff. Yeah, really about the only way this moves up any is if, again, I start getting pissy about Under the Influence again and slide that down a little bit. And then maybe it can scoot up to number 9. There's just not a whole lot of room for it to maneuver. Hello, Kat. Apparently she's got things to say about why the heck are you still up, stupid human.
Look, internet and world, here is my butthole.
It's funny because this is the cat that usually
Behold
on the camera. But yeah, so it's a good album, but I do wonder how much are people going to be talking about an album like this or the last couple of albums, 5 years down the road when you're looking at the whole Overkill discography. There's just so much stuff. It's hard to stand out at this point. So, Marty, go ahead and wrap us up with your thoughts on this last album.
Hey, we got to mention, too, that album came out on the same day as 72 Seasons.
Same
day.
Did
it? I didn't know that.
Yeah, so that was a good move. They're not afraid of nothing. they're overkill. They don't give a shit. So
Well, but this is
Well,
definitely better than 72 Seasons. Although there's some good songs on 72 Seasons.
that's not
I
even
mean,
that's not even up for
not even a
debate
competition.
here. No.
Oh yeah, well, yeah. I mean, wait, they're not even catering to the same audience at that point, really.
We'll save that whole shit for another video.
Well, really, they are catering to the same audience. We're a bunch of old farts. I mean, people are still buying Metallica records, bought them the same time I did, and all you did.
I gotta wonder. I think most of the people buying the Metallica album though are just the Metallica diehards who picked them up in the load and reload era. No one's going to be buying an Overkill record except for a grizzled old Thrash fan or some new Thrash fan. Most of the Metallica albums sold to just regular people who do not consider themselves heavy metal fans. That would be my hot take on it.
Yeah.
Metallica is selling their albums. Again, ever since the Black Album, Metallica has been catering to jocks and cheerleaders. They don't cater to heavy metal people. If metal people like their stuff, hey, that's great. They'll take your money, but those albums are not really targeted for a heavy metal audience, and that's okay. They don't have to.
This is a good. Zachary says Metallica's a metal band, not a thrash band. That's true. That's true.
I'll give you that, Zach. I'll be diplomatic and say, sure, they're going for the most mainstream, corporate friendly, easily digestible metal band that can sell 40 million records time and time again.
And Ed says Overkill and Metallica were original Megaforce Silver label LPs. Absolutely. They're from the same era. They're Yep.
Very different paths over time, of course.
Absolutely.
Yep. But
All right.
Marty, your thoughts on Scorched?
Scorched, again, the only one I don't own. I will rectify that. They really nailed the production. It's modern yet vibrant. Everything sounds as it should. It's a great sounding record. The album may not be their best, but it sits perfectly atop their output over the past decade as another Overkill release to be proud of. So glad they got back on track. I really am. Scorched, Going Home, Harder They Fall, Know Her Name were standouts, but the whole album is solid from top to bottom. I think it's a well-written record. I haven't spent a lot of time with it, but first impression was very positive. So definitely got all the rest of them. Half of them are not that great. I need to get it. It's collector scum, but yeah. And for me, it's number 10. We already mentioned that. We all scored it at number 10. Maybe if I had a little more time with it, it would have ranked a little higher, but yeah. And that's it. Holy shit. 20 Overkill records. We did it. We navigated this, the fire.
Yeah.
Was this your idea, Darcy? I think it was.
Well, it's definitely one of the bands I wanted to do with you guys for sure.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yep. Yeah, we were always going to do Overkill sooner or later, and Darcy had shown interest in that from a very early stage. So we made sure that when Darcy had an opening and he wanted to do Overkill, we were going to make it happen, and we did.
Yeah.
And thank you very much. And I do want to say, I'm really glad you had us do this topic, Darcy, because again, this was a band. There were big chunks of their catalog from the past 20 years I had never really looked into. And some of those albums are not bad. There are some I'm not crazy about, but there are some that, again, when they show up in the used bin next time, I'll pick them up. There's some good stuff there.
So you got
about that rage drink,
Mike. I gotta say, my son has gotten into Rage big time, and he's been buying a bunch of the newer records I don't have. They're good. I mean, every single record is fucking solid from start to finish. It sounds like Rage. And there's some stuff on there that makes me want to come back to them. So
yeah, there's a couple right here. Wings of Rage.
My son has that on vinyl. He loves it's great. It's a great record.
And Resurrection Day.
I just bought that for him on CD.
But
He's also
there is
Strings to the Web.
Yep.
He got that too. That's really good. I mean to give him the new one. I haven't got around to it yet, but
there is, as far as Rage ranking goes, there is one guy that is suited for that with you guys, and I am sure you know who that is.
I'm sure we know who that is.
Yes,
Yep.
our German friend for sure.
The metal theologian, Aaron.
Who isn't here tonight? What the hell? What's up, Aaron?
Hey,
Come on.
Aaron, now, one of these nights he was going out to check out that Venom clone band down there in Charleston.
Well, Venom Inc.
No. A local band, but they sound a lot like they just put out a 7-inch single, Interceptor, I think they're called.
Oh,
He did a video about him about a month or so ago. Really good. They did they put out a 7-inch, and they were playing a show, him and I think his kid were going to. I don't know if it was tonight or not, but Aaron, wherever you're at, we miss you. Folks in the chat were wondering where you were at too, and if you did go to the Interceptor show tonight, we hope you had a great time.
Yeah, well, I sure appreciate you guys having me on for this one. I mean,
oh yeah,
you know, as much as I love Overkill or the bands that we all love, I mean, there's chinks in the armor. It's not all, you know.
They can't. I mean, it's just impossible to write a banger every time.
You know, pixie dust and whatever you're saying is, it's not all roses and sunshine with every album, but there's I don't know, there's still some hidden gems in here for me, and a couple standouts would be Killbox 13 for sure. Really decent album. I love, you know, I love Ironbound. I'm glad they turned it around, because after 07, I'm like, man, like this is, even in 07, I realized this is not a great album, you know, and, but yeah, hopefully they can continue and a couple more albums and do some more touring. But yeah, thank you guys.
It's funny. I'll put this up here again so Alan's milk can curdle.
Oh, I'm on board for that one. I mean, that's no problem.
I'm a fan too.
Yeah.
I'm washing my hair that night, but you guys have fun.
Well, we'll bring
Jurgen,
we'll bring Jurgen in for that one. I'll take your spot that night, because that's a decent band.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They've gotten better as they've gotten older too.
Yeah, there's nothing that wrong with them. Again, I'm just not a huge fan of Ralph's vocals, but that's just me. But yeah, no. This one last question to wrap this up with. And I know it's getting late and we got to get Darcy to bed, but
no, we do.
Like you mentioned, Darcy. The Overkill probably still has a couple more albums in them. Say 2 years from now, they come out with album number 21. Would you prefer another Nuclear Blast, Safe and Standard Contract kind of Overkill album, or would you like to see the band try to really do something different? It doesn't have to be crazy different. I'm not talking like become a hip hop act or something, but would you like to see them try to step out of that Killbox and really tinker with the sound in some way, shape, or would you rather just have like another solid Nuclear Blast era album? What I wish and what is reality are going to be what's going to happen, because you are going to get another fairly safe album. They're not going to just, I mean, their money is in touring. It's not in album sales. It's in touring and t-shirt sales
and the classics. It's the classics that keep people coming, filling those seats. It's not Relics or Killbox 13. It's the first 5 albums that keep people going to Overkill shows.
You're right, Darcy. We know what they're going to do, but I'm interested. Like, are you going to be satisfied with another safe album, or would given your choice, like if you got the call, would you like to see them change? Because to me, Alan, as much as people say they do the samey stuff over the last few albums, there is enough subtle differences for me to be always interested in it. And but you're going to get a fairly just Overkill typical album. Like I said, they make money off touring. I bet you they make $1.50 US off of one album sales of physical media. Like it's nothing. The bulk of their money would come off of touring and even streaming now. I just watched an interview with Chuck Billy, and before we let everybody go, but Chuck Billy was on an interview on the Metal Voice, and he said we had to renegotiate everything with our streaming and Spotify and things like that. And why they didn't settle with Atlantic Records and say, okay, we're going to offer you a box set like we did Overkill. And Chuck Billy's like, no, a box set is going to do dick all for us. So they acquired their rights to their first 6 albums, and now Nuclear Blast is putting out everything and kind of double dipping and remastering everything and all this shit. But no, as far as Overkill, would I love something a little different? Sure, but is it going to happen?
What are they going to do? I mean,
what
are they going to do?
Albums into it, yeah.
They navigated over 10 years of being a groove metal band, and they weren't good at it.
Yeah.
It didn't work. I mean, it worked. It was well executed. It was just boring. I mean,
but everybody's not, and I'll use Judas Priest as an example. I mean, the reason right now where they are on their past 2 albums with Firepower and Invincible Shield is it's Richie Faulkner. He is the factor of injecting new blood into the band. I mean, I give him all the credit in the world, because if it continued the way it was continuing, I don't even know if Judas Priest would be around. It's 2 guys, and it's Andy Sneap jumping in the production, helping them out with that too.
And live.
But I mean, Faulkner's got riffs. He's a great player. Do I miss KK? For sure I do. But anyways, well, we won't keep everybody all night. Sorry about that. But,
what do you think, Alan? What do you want?
It's a fair question. I don't know what they would try to do different. And obviously you always run the risk of it not working well and alienating fans. I just feel like, at this point, we're 6 albums into the Nuclear Blast era, and Darcy, Darcy's right. To be fair, there are little differences between those albums. Myself, I hit a saturation point though, where it's just like there's a bunch of these albums and they're so close to one another that the band starts to lose my interest. Even if the albums are good, it starts getting harder and harder for me to justify. It's like, do I really need to put another one of those on my shelf? Because I haven't even played the last 3 of them that much. These bands, they get in that you can say, they're sticking to their guns, they're playing it safe, they're stuck in a rut, however you want to phrase it. It'd be nice for them maybe to try to step out of that mold at least a little bit. They don't have to go back to groove metal. They don't have to become deathcore or something, but just to flex those big old bat wings a little bit, and show that they can still come up with something unique rather than just playing it so bloody safe so much of the time. They're good at playing it safe, but it seems like that's the easy route, and I'd like to see them maybe challenge themselves a little bit more. That's all.
It's easier to play it safe when your singer has such a charismatic and unique vocal style.
Yeah.
It's always going to sound like Overkill,
Yeah.
Yep. Anyway, show notes. First of all, Darcy, thank you so much. You rule, as always. You have a free reign anytime you want to come back. Just you know how to reach us. Alan, as always, you rule, sir. And everybody in the chat, you guys are awesome as always. Thank you for all the super chats this week. And
yes, thank you all very much for that. It's really kind of everyone.
The awesome commentary in the chat. We love interacting with you guys and ladies. Show notes next week. I'm hoping Monday there'll be a review up. I have kind of a shit-packed weekend, but we'll see what happens. Wednesday night we are discussing Holy Terror's Mind Wars on the Album Club.
Good one.
Absolute one of my favorite records. And next Friday we don't know yet, but there will be somebody here and they will rule and we'll have a good time and a good conversation. But until then, anybody have anything to add? Darcy, what's coming up on your channel?
Well, I just, as I said at the beginning, I just celebrated 6 years on YouTube, and I did
awesome. Congratulations.
Did a re-ranking of my favorite band. My personal favorite band is Judas Priest. What's coming up? I got a little album battle coming up with a couple of German thrash bands, Creator and Sodom. I'm taking a look at 2001 till 2024, kind of looking at some of those newer albums people don't know as well as they know the early stuff. So I'm doing a little kind of squaring off 6-on-6 type of thing, and my usual stuff, updates, rankings, whatever I come up with. I always think of something. So but
9 o'clock in the morning and Ian's still what's going on, man? You're crazy. Anyway, everybody, you all rule. We're gonna cut it here. Go check out Darcy's 6 Strings 9 Lives, link in the description. Go check out Let's Talk Metal. Alan's killing it as always every Tuesday on his channel. And Heavy Metallurgy, we're here for you every week. Cheers. Y'all have a great weekend and we will see you soon.
Later.